Final Fantasy VII is an all-time classic. This game is so integral to my childhood. It's one of few games that I can recall people gathering around and watching while somebody else played. My friend Paul had a PlayStation and Final Fantasy VII, but no memory card. The moment his PlayStation turned off, his game was over. I watched him play through the entirety of Midgar several times before he finally got a card and had the ability to move on with the game. My friend Sam is likely never going to play this game, but he sat quietly in my room and watched me play for hours. In the 90s, this game had that effect on people. Now, Square Enix has become a project of gargantuan proportions. They're remaking it in the Unreal Engine with all the gratuitous AAA accompaniments. There are plenty of new fans who have not ever played the original. This game is referenced several times with no real explanation in the new remake. I'm certain there are some that want to go back and play the original title to get that background knowledge, but they won't. It's a game from 1997. It looks like it too. I don't blame them. This video is for those people. And there will be some who have beaten the game but just want a refresher. A video that they can watch to reminisce. I'm gonna recap the story in its entirety. I will discuss every plot point I deem necessary. If you've seen the length of this video, it's going to be most of the plot points that I deem necessary. As such, this is a spoiler video. I mean, it's intended that way. I'll occasionally intersperse my opinions on game mechanics or story moments, but it'll be mostly uninterrupted story. This will not be a full critique of the game's mechanics. I'll very much gloss over the turn-based combat and leveling. I'm hoping most people understand the basics of that, and my short summary is that I find those mechanics to be totally satisfactory today. Some people hate random battles or turn-based combat, and if that's so, then this game is surely not gonna sway you. Many of the games that have led you to that opinion were likely inspired by this game or this series. Before I start with the story, I want to preface how I went about this. I played the game on PC with the Remako mod. Using this, I replaced the character models and the backgrounds were upscaled to look like proper renditions of the original. It looks better on a modern monitor or TV while still actually being the original image. None of the graphical stylings have been altered. For the first segment of the game, I used the new translation rather than the original and then quickly changed it back for reasons I'll explain later. I should say that this story is told entirely in text boxes. There are certain words that were used like Mako. I called this Mako for over 20 years with no external context to verify the correct pronunciation. The same goes for character names and such. The remake verified that the word is pronounced Mako, but I've been saying it wrong for so many years that it's a hard habit to break. Someone with extensive knowledge of Final Fantasy VII might notice some of these examples in this video, and feel free to comment if I say something verifiably incorrect. For the first segment of gameplay, I left the original models just so people can get a context to what the original game looked like before replacing them with other models that I found more fitting in a modern context. I played this game in a format that I felt best reflected on the game while also reflecting the game and story that I played in my childhood. I don't plan on giving you the Wikipedia of Final Fantasy VII, telling you all about the game devs and behind the scenes story. Those stories are out there and they're told by people much better suited for the job than me. Also, I wasn't sure what to do about the black edges of the 4:3 picture, so I may or may not have decided on an image on the sides rather than a traditional black border. I will see in the editing phase what I decide looks better to my eyes. We good? Let's go. Damn, that opening cinematic gets me every time. Quickly, you're introduced to Cloud and Barrett. Barrett calls Cloud a newcomer. After defeating a few stooges, Cloud joins the rest of the group and they introduce themselves as Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, members of a crew called Avalanche. They acknowledge Cloud's past as being a member of something called Soldier. Cloud has no interest in learning their names, and he's just in it for this one job. Barrett tells us that our target is Mako Reactor 1. See, I almost said Mako. He distrusts Cloud for the same reason the other three are enamored with him. In 1998, when I first played this game, I was truly amazed by these transitions from gameplay to cutscenes. Heck, I still am a little. Barrett explains the motivations of Avalanche. These reactors are used to power the city. A company called Shinra uses the reactors to pull energy from the Earth. Barrett claims they're sucking the life out of the planet, and he sees himself as the world's protector. To Cloud, this job is just a paycheck. Watching these stubby-armed characters pantomime their emotions really brings me back. Once down at the reactor, Cloud finds the first of the game's materia on the ground. It cannot be equipped just yet. The duo squabble about who should place the bomb, and Cloud is selected for the task. Before he can do so, he has a bit of a blackout and hears a voice of a man that tells him that this is more than a reactor. To Barrett, Cloud just looks like a nut job. Cloud shakes it off and gets back to the task at hand. Once the bomb is armed, they come face to face with some Shinra technology that's come to stop them. Your first boss fight is very simple. You have 2 spells to attack it with, and even a dummy like me can figure out a robot is more susceptible to lightning than ice. One quirk of this fight is that if you attack the robot while its tail is raised, he'll counter with his most powerful move. The key is to wait until his tail is back down to attack. Easy peasy. As soon as this fight is over, a timer starts. The bomb is armed and will explode in 10 minutes. This timer is very generous, but it adds some tension to the escape. Well, that combined with the bombing mission music hyping you up. Jessie is stuck and Cloud can go over to help her. Well, at least my Cloud did, because he may be cold, but he isn't ice cold. Frankly, I cannot say what happens if you ignore her, as I never have. Cloud and Avalanche escape, but you're treated to a giant explosion of Reactor 1. This traps them underground, and Jessie blows their way out, and the group split up. A young flower girl meets Cloud in the street, and you're given choices for how to speak to her. I bought a flower from her. These choices are quietly calculated in the background, and the consequences of your choices and speech checks bear fruit later in the game. Down the street, Cloud is confronted by Shinra security forces. You could choose to fight or run away, but eventually, Cloud is surrounded after a couple of these engagements. This is Final Fantasy's version of a Mission Impossible escape. The members of Avalanche are waiting on the train, fearing for Cloud, but Barrett seems fairly confident in his abilities to stay safe. Cloud makes a fashionable entrance and everyone seems pretty impressed, except Barrett, who says that his antics are costing money from his shares from the job. In the train, it's time to act cool. That's difficult because even in this world, this group looks like a bunch of outcasts. The Shinra employee who's working on the train laments working the late shift. If you talk to Jessie, she'll show you a map of Midgar on the train. The city is a massive circle of reactors with a giant plate on top. I didn't completely comprehend the layout of this city when I played this for the first time when I was 14. It will later be described as a rotten pizza by Barrett. The top of the pizza is where the powerful live, and the have-nots live in its shadow down below the plate. Barrett laments that he can't see the sky as it's obscured by the plate. The plate also holds the pollution down in the city below. It doesn't sound too great, but it's Barrett's home. After exiting the train, Barrett warns everyone to be careful because that was just the first mission and there's more to come. It's time to head to 7th Heaven Bar to decompress. It's also time to engage character mods to clean up Mr. Toaster Hands and friends. I left in the original models in the beginning because I thought it would be fun to have some side-by-side comparison. I chose models that match the characters from the battle scenes because I feel it looks period accurate and not out of place, but they also make the character gestures look more relatable. Just outside of the slums, there's a man eyeballing this tower that holds the plate above. He fears for its safety because he heard terrorists took out the reactor. If that tower fell down, the slums would be crushed by the plate. Back in town, Barrett tells the clientele from the bar to scram. Once inside, Cloud is greeted by a little girl. You'll notice at this point in the game I was using the new translation of the game, so she's introduced as Marin. Later I'll change back to the original translation that we'll call her Marlene. Cloud visits Tifa, who's running this bar as well. She notices he has a flower, and you're prompted to give it to either Marlene or Tifa. I give it to Tifa since she seemed to be jealous of me getting a flower from someone. I'm playing it cool. Again, these small and seemingly inconsequential choices are being tabulated in the background. You can talk to the rest of Avalanche where Biggs will offer you a beer, Wedge will explain that he's been made fat by Tifa's cooking, and Jessie just straight up has hard eyes for Cloud. Someone get this girl some Gatorade, cause she's thirsty. Barrett eventually barges in and grabs Marlene up. She's happy to have her dad home. He calls a meeting downstairs and Cloud is left alone with Tifa. She insinuates a couple of times that her and Cloud have known each other since childhood, and further mentions are made to his past in Soldier. Apparently, Cloud is what one would call kind of a big deal. Tifa makes Cloud a drink, and he tells her once he gets paid for this job, he's out of here, after shrugging off her concerns for his safety. Downstairs, Jessie is concerned with the explosion. It was larger than she had intended, in spite of her following all the directions. I'm really grateful for this mod because even in this polygonal state, the characters actually resemble the forms of humans instead of clumps of blocks as they did originally. Cloud tells everyone that he didn't recognize anyone from his days in Soldier. Barrett wants to make sure he doesn't have any ideas of going back to his Shinra cohorts. Cloud doesn't care about them, he just wants his money. Upstairs, Tifa reinforces that Avalanche are fighting for the planet, and they need his help. Cloud sees this as a base that is already covered by Barrett and his crew and starts to leave. Tifa can't believe that Cloud is ready to walk out on a childhood friend and calls him out on it. He made a promise to her in their youth and she reminds him of it. They reminisce about 7 years ago at the village water tower. Cloud tells Tifa that he's leaving the next day to join Soldier. He isn't like the other boys leaving the village. He's different. He wants to be the best, like someone named Sephiroth. This endeavor means he won't be able to return to the village for some time. Tifa makes him promise that if he ever becomes famous and she's in trouble, he'll return to rescue her. He agrees. Back at the bar, Tifa is relieved that he does indeed remember this night. He is not a hero though, and he definitely isn't famous. He can't keep his promise. Barrett interrupts this conversation to pay Cloud. The prompt shows that Cloud receives Barrett's savings of 1,500 gil. Cloud frowns upon this and thinks he deserves more in spite of the game deliberately pulling her heartstrings with its prompt. Apparently Tifa's charms worked on Cloud though, because he asked for double the fee for the next job. Barrett can't believe it, but Tifa convinces him that they need Cloud's help. But that money is from Marlene's schooling! They all greet each other and Cloud is given another opportunity to hit on Tifa or hate on Barrett. Tifa didn't seem to catch the innuendo. At this point, Barrett asks you to explain Materia to him. You can finally equip that restore Materia you found. This tutorial drags on way too long, but it gets the point across. The gear you have equipped have slots where you can install Materia in them. Each Materia has accompanying stats to them. For instance, green magic Materia will generally boost your MP stats while negatively impacting strength. By equipping the Materia, you can also make use of the skills contained in the Materia. Restore Materia contains the cure magic. Each fight you get in will give you AP that will gradually level up your Materia that's equipped. The characters level up by fighting, but so does the Materia. At level 2, Restore Materia unlocks Cure 2, then Regen, then finally Cure 3. A fully maxed out Materia spawns a new level 1 Materia. Some types of Materia can be found, and some can be bought. There are some Materia that you will find only once in this game. Later, you can max out these Materia and sell it for money, or you could just produce more of the rarer types to heavily arm your party. I love this system. Finding new equipment with more Materia slots is just as exciting as finding equipment that deals more damage or has higher armor. So yeah, Materia good. I'm a flan. From here, Cloud is finally free to explore the slums. I bought a few things from the weapon shop and talked to some people. One of the places is a house for a guy named Johnny that left town. On this playthrough, I didn't run to him in time for him to tell me he was leaving town, but his parents in the home reassure me that he was a troublemaker who will still be missed nonetheless. The remake makes him a much larger figure than a guy who has a couple lines before leaving town. After a little detour, checking out things, it's time to jump on the train with Avalanche. Barrett is not as discreet as one might hope in a scenario like this. He scares off the other passengers in the train car, including this mild-mannered Shinra employee that does his best to stand up to Barrett before giving in to Barrett's intimidation. Let's be honest here, if you're jumping in a train car and a giant buff dude with a chain gun attached to his arm gets on, you're gonna reconsider your seat. I've heard that Barrett was modeled after Mr. T, and that's exactly how I've always read his lines in my head. Shinra has an ID checkpoint set up once the train reaches the top plate, and at that point the crew will have to jump off the train, as the fake IDs they've used in the past will be useless now. Tifa asks Cloud to check out the railway monitor, but he's already done that with Jessie, if you play like I do. Suddenly the alarm sounds. The security checkpoint has been initiated prematurely. Who would have thought that a little thing like blowing up a Mako reactor would cause Shinra to tighten their security? The gang jump out the train and wind up in the railways. Barrett says Shinra is still unaware of their infiltration as of now. This thought amuses me, as a crew of people, including a dude with a machine gun arm, just jumped out of a moving train during a security checkpoint. Say Buzz, didn't a crew, including a jacked machine gun arm guy, just recently bomb a reactor? Shut up, Bob. I'm sure that's entirely unrelated. That is definitely how things go down at Shinra HQ. Anyhow, the gang navigate their way to the next target. Another Mako reactor. Even after 80 hours with the remake calling it Mako, I'm still not used to it. As the crew begins to initiate Operation Destroy a Reactor, my name, not theirs, they're completely surrounded by Shinra soldiers. It's a trap! Perhaps they did have suspicions of the machine gun arm guy after all. President Shinra walks out of the shadows and introduces himself. Barrett replies in kind. Cloud greets him and the president acknowledges him as one who quit soldier and joined Avalanche. He recognized that he had been exposed to Mako from the look in his eyes. He asks Cloud his name and asks forgiveness for not remembering it, as he can't be asked to recall everyone. Unless he becomes another Sephiroth, that is. Sephiroth, huh? President Shinra remembers him as perhaps too brilliant. Cloud perks up at the name. Barrett doesn't care about any of that, as the destruction of this reactor is his only concern. The conversation bores the president, and he takes his leave on a helicopter, but he leaves a techno weapon behind to deal with Avalanche. This is one of the more better designed boss encounters from the game. You're in a pincer formation, and an attack from behind will elicit a counterattack. It took me way too long to remember this, but luckily I'm a gamer boy, so I took care of it. His destruction is a bit of bad with the good though, as it blows out the bridge they're standing on. This leaves Cloud hanging precariously. Barrett is realistic, and he knows he can't help Cloud now. Tifa's distraught, and she has more that she is meant to say to Cloud. Barrett asks Cloud how he's doing. You can reply either "be strong" or "I don't know if I can hang on." Cloud's cool though. He responds "be strong." He puts on his brave face, but he really can't hold on forever. Just a reminder what the original models look like. Again, these cutscenes blew my ever-loving mind back in the day. Cloud has some kind of inner monologue that's interrupted by a friendly voice. He's crash-landed through the roof of a church into a flower bed. The flower girl greets him. Cloud apologizes for wrecking her flowers, and the girl is unconcerned and said they're resilient because they're growing in such a sacred place. Cloud acknowledges their first meeting, and the girl thanks him for purchasing her flowers. She asks him if he has any materia, and he tells her he does. She reveals that she too has materia, but she says it's special. Her materia doesn't do anything. He's convinced that she just doesn't know how to use it, but she reassures him that it really isn't good for anything. Her materia is a keepsake of her mother's. The girl wants to quickly do some work to take care of her flowers, and then she realizes they haven't been formally introduced. Her name is Eris. At this point, I want to briefly interject that her original name in the Western translation of this game was Eris. Many people contend it should have been translated Aerith. Tim Rogers has a great bit where he explains how this translation occurred, as the TH sound in Japanese is a su sound, so her name in Japanese was Arisu. I grew up calling her Eris, so I left that as her name in this game file. There is more contention over translations from the game, including other names. This is the point where I will acknowledge the fact that I'm leaving the names from the original translation that I played in my youth. Continuing on, Cloud explains about his job as a mercenary, and Eris calls him a jack of all trades. A man enters the church, and Eris inquires if Cloud has ever been a bodyguard, which shouldn't be difficult for a jack of all trades. She asks Cloud to get her out of here. She offers a date as a reward for his service. Cloud recognizes the man's uniform. The game introduces the man as Reno. Eris doesn't want them to fight in the church. Think of the flowers! Cloud and Eris make an escape out the back. Reno may be a Shinra employee, but he does instruct his men not to step on the flowers, so he has some class. The getaway out the back includes Cloud rolling barrels down on the henchmen, which is something like a Three Stooges bit. On the roof of the church, Cloud tells Eris that he recognized Reno as being from the Turks. They're meant to find candidates for the soldier program. Eris just assumed they were kidnappers, as they've been after her before. Cloud thinks there has to be more to it, but Eris thinks it's possible they just simply believe she has what it takes to be a soldier. All she knows is she doesn't want to be caught by those people. Cloud and Eris escape on the rooftops. Eris is a lady after all, and Cloud teases her that she's awful winded for someone who's cut out to be a soldier. She asks him if he was ever a soldier. When he tells her that he was, it doesn't surprise her, as he reminds her of someone she once knew. She recognized the glow of Mako in his eyes. Eris's house looks exactly as you would imagine. It's like an oasis in the desert. A field of beautiful flowers grow right nearby the home. Upon entering, Eris introduces Cloud to her mom and refers to him as her bodyguard. Eris's mom, Elmira, seems to be well aware of her persistent troubles with people following her and thanks Cloud. For his part, Cloud is ready to get out of here and make his way back to Tifa's bar in the slums. Eris inquires about this Tifa. Is she his girlfriend? You can choose to say yes or dismiss the idea. Shoot, I barely know the girl. Eris offers to take Cloud back to Sector 7. He can't believe she immediately wants to put herself in danger again, but she says she's used to it. After arriving just a minute ago, Eris is ready to depart again. Elmira pleads that she stay the night and leave in the morning. Eris agrees and heads upstairs. If you talk to Elmira, she recognizes Cloud as being from Soldier, and she will ask nicely that he leave in the night without Eris. Sounds pretty reasonable if you ask me. Eris says goodnight to Cloud and he lays down in the guest room. He hasn't slept in a bed like this since... He has a flashback to his family home. His mom is pestering him with questions about his service for Shinra. Oh, you're so grown up and handsome, kind of stuff. This dream sequence ends abruptly as Cloud awakens and makes his escape from Eris. He thinks he's made a clean break, but on his way back to Sector 7, Eris cuts him off. She's going to be harder to get rid of than he gave her credit for. On your way there, this would be a good time to discuss some of the enemies in this game. Many are downright goofy looking. Take for example this enemy called Hell House. It's a house that's evil, I guess. You can encounter it on basically one screen in Midgar. In 1997, I thought almost nothing about fighting a sentient house, but in 2022, it seems pretty silly. At some point when the remake comes to PC, I'll make a video on that. I wrote this literally days before the Steam version launched. I originally had a smarmy remark referring to the Epic Game Store version. It's gone now. I figured many of these silly enemy types would be ushered out of the pantheon, but instead they leaned into those strange enemies and rolled with it. I'm grateful for it, even if it's the ultimate in silliness for a new player with no past context for these foes. You can easily rationalize random strange mutants in this world, as perhaps the Mako energy has created strange fiends. But some of these seem like their origin was dare-based. Tetsuya Nomura was like, I'm gonna make them fight a house, and no one is gonna say a thing. Once Cloud and Eris make it to the Sector 7 gate, Cloud offers to take Eris back to her home, in spite of how silly a concept that would be. Eris wants to have a moment in the park before they part ways. Cloud tells Eris he was Soldier, first class. Her boyfriend was the same rank. Cloud asks, were you serious? No, she replies, but she liked him for a while. She didn't reveal his name. It's not important now. Their conversation is interrupted by a chocobo carriage carrying Tifa. The two take their leave to investigate. We've now entered the fabled wall market. I will truncate my discussion of this section, but in game time, I probably spent about 3 hours here on my first playthrough in the 90s. This is a red light district of sorts, the seedy underbelly of Midgar, where one can satisfy certain needs. There are men gathered in front of an establishment called the Honey Bee Inn. Johnny, the man from the slums getting out of town, stands out front. He is nervous and building the nerve to enter. The man at the door acknowledges that Tifa is going to be their newest girl, but any new girls at the Honey Bee Inn have to be interviewed by Don Corneo, the most powerful man in Wall Market. Cloud and Eris make their way to his mansion. The problem is that the Don isn't interested in dudes. No way is Cloud gonna let Eris go alone into this man's den of depravity. This gives Eris an idea. She plans to dress up Cloud as a girl, as it's the only way. She promises to bring her pretty friend with her when she returns. Cloud does not appreciate this plan. To execute Operation Twisted Sister, Cloud needs to get a dress and a wig, but there are other items you can procure that are optional. There's a dressmaker who has lost his motivation at the bar, and Cloud's apparent interests renew his inspiration. Cloud asks for a dress that is soft and that shimmers. Even with this dress, it isn't right, and it's then that Eris decides a wig is needed. The shopkeeper tells Cloud about some people in the gym with similar proclivities as him. Cloud really wants to know what Eris told the dressmaker about him. Inside the gym, the only way you're gonna get cuter is if you beat Big Bro. Cloud is confused by this, but Eris steps in. The challenger is indeed the beautiful Big Bro. Cloud has to win in a squats competition. This is the first in numerous mini-games to complete in Final Fantasy VII. It's essentially a rhythm game to complete these squats, and it's very simple, but having little challenges like this really breaks the monotony of running through a long JRPG. If you fail this challenge, you'll get the key item, wig. If you succeed, you'll be given the blonde wig. Big Bro is rendered in the classic fashion of 1997 technology, and they're not direct about what's going on here, but it can be insinuated that the leader in the gym is at the very least a cross-dresser. Cloud's complete naivete amuses me to this day. Certain segments of Wall Market can be considered insensitive in a modern context, but I sense no real hints of malice here, and I still enjoy it. Cloud gets a member's card so he can enter the Honeybee Inn. He does so in spite of Eris' protests. He needs to complete his outfit after all. What a fine excuse that is. Johnny on his hands and knees in front of the place amuses me. Inside there are a number of doors Cloud can choose from. The expletive room, the group room, the queen's room, and the lover's room. You can peek in the occupied rooms. Look man, this place has some more sinister undertones than one might imagine. The Queen's Room has the Shinra president engaging in some kind of pretty dark rituals. The Lover's Room is occupied by an old couple and a grandpa, and Grandpa is having some relational difficulties in this setting. In the end, my Cloud chose to go in the expletive room where he proceeds to have a mental breakdown and his inner conflict causes him to pass out. He has a bit of a rude awakening. This gay panic scene is seen by many in negative light today, but I'm childish, so I still appreciate it. Again, I don't think there's any malice here, so I see it in light of its intentions. For his troubles, a honeybee girl gives Cloud some lingerie. He doesn't seem to comprehend its purpose, which amuses me further. I also procured some sexy cologne on the side, which I presume was intended as perfume before being translated into cologne, but different strokes for different folks. Out in front of the Honeybee Inn, it seems Eris took the men out front for fools, and she sold them flowers for 300 gil. You might recall us buying one for a single gil at the beginning of the game. She is no fool. With her outfit assembled, Cloud gets ready for his date. Eris teases him by calling him Miss Cloud, and then she readies herself as well. Cloud's outfit makes an impression on the doorman at the mansion. The two ladies explore inside and find Tifa in the basement of some sort of very specific dungeon. Eris introduces herself to Tifa and they both try and explain to one another that Cloud is not an item with either of them. Cloud stands awkwardly in the corner. Tifa literally jumps, realizing that Cloud is in fact the woman in the corner. Cloud explains that he dressed like this to gain entry and find her, and Tifa explains she came here to investigate the Dawn. Every single night, he chooses a bride from 3 women, and she wanted to be that bride to squeeze some information out of him. Lucky us, we have 3 women here. Tifa doesn't want Eris mixed up in this, but she's used to danger. It's time to meet the Dawn. Considering the polygonal nature of these models, they perfectly reflected the greasy nature of this character with his animations. Because I did the legwork to require all of the supplemental items for Cloud, he is the one chosen as the lady of the evening on this occasion. The Dawn is ready to pounce in his bed, and I chose all the silly options in menu. The girls enter right as my Cloud was ready to give the Dawn a nice big kiss. Nah, baby, that was just a ruse. Just playing the game. Time to interrogate the most powerful man in Wall Market. If he doesn't listen, Cloud will chop it off. The Dawn was ordered to find the man with the gun arm. He can't say who gave him the orders. Eris threatens to rip it off. It was Heidegger of Shinra. That's all he could say. Tifa threatens to smash it. Shinra's trying to crush a rebel group called Avalanche. The plan is to break the supports that hold the plate above Sector 7. This will cause the plate to collapse down and crush everything below. This will kill everyone in the entirety of the Sector 7 slums. The scumbag Dawn is just thankful Wall Market is in Sector 6. The Dawn has one secret left. He drops them through a trapdoor into the sewers below his mansion. Back at Shinra HQ, President Shinra speaks to his henchmen, Heidegger and a company man named Reeves. They discuss the implications of destroying the plate over Sector 7. Reeves has compassion for the lives that'll be lost, as well as sadness for the destruction of all his hard work doing city planning. The President and Heidegger are basically cartoon villains who just want to blame these events on Avalanche and call it a day. Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith fight their way through the sewers and come out into a train graveyard. They have to make it back to the slums in Sector 7 and warn everyone. I haven't and won't point out every difference between the modern remake and its original title, but this train graveyard section is a total of 2 screens in this original version of the game, and it was expanded out to encompass a large section of gameplay in the remake. I just thought I would make note of it. The boss of that section is named Eligor, who is a rare enemy you can encounter only on this screen. You can steal from it and get a powerful weapon called Striking Staff for Aerith. Well, powerful at this point of the game anyhow. Later I'll probably ramble about how little powerful weapon for Aerith means. I don't. Basically, she doesn't attack for much. The gang arrives at the pillar and it's still standing. They hear gunfire. Barrett and the remaining members of Avalanche are gonna fight for their lives to protect the slums. Wedge takes a fall from the pillar and he isn't gonna make it. He's happy that Cloud remembered his name. Before the ascent, Tifa takes care of some housekeeping. She sends Aerith to fetch little Marlene back at her bar, the 7th Heaven. Biggs isn't faring much better than Wedge. He tells Cloud to hurry up and help Barrett at the top. Further up, Cloud speaks to Jessie for the last time. She reckons that this is her punishment for all the people hurt by the exploding reactor. At the top, it's time to assist Barrett. You haven't used him in a while, so it's time to update his equipment and materia before the fight. It's Reno from the Turks. He arms the bomb to the pillar and it's time for a fight. You win the battle, but not the war. He escapes and the crew can't seem to figure out how to disable the bomb. At this point, the leader of the Turks, Sung, makes an appearance with a helicopter. He has Aerith held hostage. He tells the gang that only a member of Shinra would be capable of disarming the bomb and explains that the Turks were dispatched to apprehend Aerith by President Shinra himself, and she is the last ancient. Before he absconds with our girl, Aerith shouts to Tifa that she's alright. He takes off right as the pillar begins to fall. The crew have very few options, and they chose the Matrix route. They grab onto a pillar and swing out of there. The plate crashes down in the slums. Anyone who didn't get out is surely gone. The president watches silently over his handiwork. Back at the Sector 6 playground where Cloud had his conversation with Aerith, Barrett has a mental breakdown. His daughter, his friends from Avalanche, the entirety of the population of the slums are dead. He fires futilely at the wreckage from the slums. Tifa has a ray of hope. Things are bad, but perhaps Marlene was saved. She explains that Aerith was tasked with saving Marlene. This only slightly brightens his dim mood as the rest of Sector 7 is now gone. These actions by Shinra have only hardened his resolve. They've gone too far, and only prove that he has to persevere to see to their end. Cloud has to go find Aerith now. Tifa and Barrett follow behind closely. Barrett wants to see his daughter first. Cloud agrees, but he wants to know more about the Ancients. He has another one of his attacks, where he hears the inner voice claiming to also have the blood of the Ancients. Cloud questions aloud, "Sephiroth?" before collapsing in front of his friends. He pulls it together and they head for the likely place Marlene was stowed. At Aerith's home in Sector 6, they greet her mother. Aerith was taken in front of her. Cloud asks why they want her so bad, and she explains that she's the sole survivor of the Ancients. Elmira is not Aerith's real mother. 15 years ago, her husband was fighting on the front in a place called Wutai. She received a letter saying he was going to come home. She waited in vain for his arrival. He never came home. She returned to the train station on numerous occasions. One day, she found a woman on the steps with a young child. The woman told her to care for Aerith with her dying words, and Elmira was already so lonely. She took Aerith as a daughter, and they quickly bonded. Aerith told her that they escaped some kind of research facility, that she didn't fear for her mother as she returned to the planet. One day, Eris came downstairs to calm her adopted mother. She asked that she not cry. Someone dear to her had passed. He too would now return to the planet. Several days later, she received the notice that her husband truly was gone. Elmira recalls the first time she was found by the Turks. Sung explained to Elmira that Eris was the last of the ancients, and the mythology is such that they will lead Shinra to a land of supreme happiness. Of course, Eris was not turned over to their custody. Her bloodline is the explanation for her special powers and closest to the planet. She returned to her mother with Marlene in tow, and Eris made a deal with Sung for the safety of the child in return for her own. Barrett explains that he is the child's father, and he is promptly scolded by Elmira for leaving her alone. I like Elmira. All Barrett wants in the world is to be with Marlene, but he has fighting to do to ensure her future. Barrett sounds like a big lug, but a lovable one nonetheless. He visits Marlene in Eris's room upstairs. He's grateful for her safety. He has to return the favor for Eris. Before you take your leave, Barrett asks that Elmira care for Marlene, while he does what he can for the safety of the planet and her daughter Eris. Elmira accepts the task, but makes Barrett promise he won't be killed. It's time to assault the Shinra head-on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head-on. Apply directly to the forehead. I hate myself for that joke too. To Shinra HQ. There's a wire in the wall market that leads to the upper plate. Barrett describes it as a golden, shiny wire of hope. I had always assumed this was a translation issue. Tim Rogers did an amazing video series translating the original Japanese version of this game, and he debunked this thought. If you're a huge Final Fantasy VII fan like myself, then you might really appreciate this content. I will hopefully remember to link to the video in the description, since I have now referenced this material twice. After a few hoops jump through, the crew arrive at the base of Shinra Tower. This panning shot of Shinra HQ is still really excellent if you ask me. You have a couple of paths of entry here. You can go through the front door and take the elevators, which means you have a couple of fights before you get to the 60th floor, where the executive floors start, or you can take the sneaky way. Or more accurately, the incredibly slow way. I've opted to take that path for this run. It's a comically high number of stairs to have to ascend with no real conflict along the way. Barrett has to take numerous breaks along the way. Barrett complains the entire time and even says he's gonna turn back. I'm only flesh and blood, except for this arm of mine. Tifa fires back that she's human too, and she's grinning and bearing it. Okay, I'm devoting too long on this segment, but like, you get the joke. It's a shitload of stairs. Once at the top, you're on the 60th floor. That's cool, but you gotta keep going. The problem is that each of the subsequent floors require a key card. Each floor requires that you handle a small task to get the next key card for the next floor. One floor features the disgruntled mayor of Midgar, who's merely a figurehead controlled by Shinra Corp. He gives you a key card. One floor features a puzzle of sorts that requires you to assemble pieces of a model of Midgar. You catch the drift. On floor 66, Cloud sneaks up to the vents and overhears an ongoing meeting with the Shinra suits. Reese is giving estimated cost to rebuild Midgar. The president interrupts, as there will be no rebuild. His plan is to charge more for Mako energy and fund his crusade for the Promised Land. He has the last ancient in his control, and he is sure that soon he will surely find it. His lackey, Palmer, is ecstatic for the rate hike until he hears that the new budget will be split between Reeves and Miss Scarlet. Reeves is certain the people will rebel, but the president believes that the people will side with him even more, as they were the ones who saved the people from Avalanche, the terrorists who destroyed Sector 7. In walks a creepy lab coat wearing man named Hojo, who tells the president that Eris is an inferior specimen to her mother, but he can be finished in roughly 120 years. He thinks it's unlikely that this kind of research can be done in his or Eris's lifetime. His plan is to breed her, better odds with more subjects. The meeting concludes and Cloud backs out the vents with these amusing animations. I have to reinforce that this truly looks way better than the original models, but it's still amusing to me as it uses the same animations. The gang bust into Hojo's lab and find him admiring some sort of experimental creature. Cloud peeks into a window labeled Genova. This eerie sight drops him back. Barrett responds appropriately to this scene. After taking an elevator, Eris's location is discovered. Hojo has her in a container, much like the prior specimen we found. Hojo raises the specimen onto the same pad as Eris. Barrett shoots the pod in order to free Eris, which seems potentially hazardous to her and the creature, but okay. It works because game logic. The door opens up and the creature attacks Hojo. It talks too. He tells them that the doctor called him Red 13, but I renamed him Nanaki for story reasons that will be explained later. He tells the game that he will assist as something else is on its way up the elevator. The enemy is one of Hojo's experiments, and it turns out that he is allergic to fire. He's burnt to a crisp in no time. Nanaki, formerly Red 13, doesn't have time for an origin story, but he does have time to apologize for Eris for pretending to threaten her. He needed to play the game to lure Hojo into a false sense of security. The gang checks their watch and it's time to get the hell out of here. They make it to the elevator and they're joined by Rude from the Turks. Darn him! If only he wasn't so cool. Sung steps in with him and the gang are apprehended in spite of the fact that they just dominated Hojo's most fearsome experiment. Okay, cool. Rude has sunglasses. I get it. He's a menace. They are escorted to the president, who awaits them in his Dr. Evil-ass chair. He does the thing that evil villains do, where they explain the entirety of their evil plans for no good reason. The ancients were also known as the Cetra, and they lived thousands of years ago. They're gonna take them to the Promised Land. This is a were you listening before test. He hypothesizes that the Promised Land will be fertile with Mako energy, and he plans to make money off of it. What a simple man. They will build Neo Midgar and start anew. The gang is rounded up and sent to cells. Why weren't they fed to the sharks with laser beams on their heads? We may never know. Inside the cells, Cloud can speak to everyone. Eris is pretty pumped that Cloud came for her, for which he responds, I'm your bodyguard, right? Eris again asserts that she has promised him a date. Tifa hears this, and she is none too pumped over this conversation. Don't be such a square in this love triangle, am I right? Eris cannot confirm or deny the Promised Land's existence, but she is sure that the Cetra were born from the planet, speak with the planet, and unlock the planet. She can hear the planet, but she says it's noisy, and she could only make it out in the church in the slums. Again, she's been hitting on that good stuff. After talking to the rest of the gang, Cloud falls asleep, only to awaken to an open cell door. He rouses the rest of the crew and finds the guard dead on the floor. Further down the halls is blood on the floor and a trail leading to the elevator. The music combined with the blood trails is legit unsettling. Cloud arrives at the container that was holding the Genova specimen, and it is clearly burst out and headed towards the elevator. I know the graphics look like this, but you tell me if you find this to still set an effective atmosphere for you. As you follow the blood trail, your random encounters are no longer with Shinra soldiers, but with some kind of experimental creatures. The battle theme is gone. The tense music persists, even through combat. Reaching the top of the tower, you find President Shinra. He was executed with a large sword, a sword that Cloud recognizes as Sephiroth's. The president's stooge Palmer shows face to confirm that Sephiroth has indeed returned. Sephiroth told Palmer that Shinra could not have the Promised Land. His motives are still obscured by mystery. At this time, the president's son Rufus is poised to make an escape on his helicopter outside. Rufus makes his inauguration speech as a new president to this motley crew. His father was only concerned with money. Rufus plans to rule with fear. Basically, he's the new big bad in Midgar. Cloud tells everyone to get out of there while he takes care of the young president. Tifa must have bad ears because she won't listen. While the rest go to the elevator, she waits around for Cloud. Once on the elevator, the remaining party are attacked by a giant Shinra robot while descending on a nearby elevator. Honestly, it's a pretty cool set piece for the time. Meanwhile, on the roof, Cloud fights Rufus and his dog one-on-one. This fight is potentially a tough one if you don't set your materia right. After taking some damage, Rufus takes to the skies in his helicopter. Cloud and Tifa briefly reunite, and then it's getting time. The boss fight music continues even after the Rufus fight, and on your descent down the building. All these years later, I'm still pumped on it. Shinra has the front of the building surrounded. This escape won't be as easy as the entry. Tifa descends the stairs and begs the party to hurry. I'm going to include the full cutscene because, as I recently told my friend Lex, brevity is the soul of wit, and I'm witless. You got out of the building, but Shinra's still giving chase. This motorcycle minigame kicks ass all these years later. It's dead ass simple, but man, it's fun. Any of you guys play Road Rash on the Sega Genesis? No? You're not ancient as fuck like me? Gotcha. Well, it's basically an even simpler version of that. Protect the gang on their silly ass vehicle. I love the mini games in this game with few exceptions, and given the limited technology they had to work with, I'm impressed with how cinematic they made this. At the end of the road waits a comically beefy vehicle boss. With that thing dispatched, we're at the literal and figurative end of the road in Midgar. Cloud has to stop Sephiroth. Barrett has to save the planet. Eris has to learn of the ancients. Everyone is all in to continue this journey. They bid farewell to the place they've called home. Red 13 promises to travel as far as his home and no further. The remake stops telling its story here. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's essentially the deal. For anyone that's played that and not this original, prepare to answer some questions that you likely had from the unexplained Easter eggs from the remake. Now you can take your crew on the world map. You have only 3 members of your battle party, and your total party is now a total of 5. You have to make some tough decisions on who your main crew will be. My first ever run, my final party, was Red 13, Barrett, and Cloud. The next time I did Cloud, Tifa, and another character we've yet to meet. Early on, I decided Red 13 and Tifa would accompany Cloud. I changed that around later. For years, if you asked me about open world games, this is what I would have envisioned. This primitive map featuring random encounters and uncanny models of towns may seem silly now, but it offered a similar freedom to what modern open world games offer. Or at least they do a good job of making it seem as though you aren't being railroaded from one area to the next, even when you are at times. In Final Fantasy VII, the backgrounds of the battle arenas will change according to the setting of the world map where the encounter started at. I suppose that's unimpressive by today's standards, but these details wowed me in my youth. The closest town to Midgar on the world map is a small village called Calm. So far you've heard lots of references to Sephiroth, from Cloud aspiring to be like him, to eventually people fearing him. Now is the time to get a better background. The party gathers at the inn, and they ask to hear Cloud's background and the story about Sephiroth. Cloud recalls wanting to be like Sephiroth, and eventually joining Soldier, and even calling him a friend, or at least war buddies. This was until one day 5 years ago. Cloud excitedly tells Sephiroth about his new materia he can't wait to use. Sephiroth is amused by his childlike excitement and tells him that this is not going to be a typical mission. This excites Cloud as he wanted to become a big hero like Sephiroth, but by the time he joined Soldier, the war had ended. Big missions like this are his chance to make his name. They are set to dispose of some creatures that have been emanating from an old Mako reactor at Nibelheim. This is Cloud's hometown. Their vehicle is stopped by a large creature. This dragon towers over Cloud, and the difference in their strength is immediately evident. Sephiroth dominates the dragon while Cloud essentially flails at it by comparison. Cloud was mesmerized by him. The story continues as the pair arrive at Nibelheim. Sephiroth asks Cloud how it feels to return to his hometown. He doesn't know the feeling as he doesn't have one. Cloud asks about his family. Sephiroth's mother was named Jenova, and she died right after his birth. His father? It doesn't matter. Barrett interrupts the story. He recognizes the name of Jenova. He refers to it as the, quote, headless spook at Shinra HQ. Damn, what a way with words this guy has. He is immediately chided by the party about interrupting the story, and Cloud continues. Sephiroth tells Cloud that they leave at dawn. He has a short time for a reunion tour before he has to catch some Z's and head out. He first visits his mother. This was the conversation he flashed back to earlier. You look so grown up. You need an older girlfriend to take care of you, etc. She basically just moms it up. Cloud interrupts this retelling as she tells him that she'll always be his mother. He's said enough about this interaction. Tifa asks if he went to her house. He tells her that he thought she might be home. Tifa asks if he went into her room. He again tells her yes. If you inspect her wardrobe in this flashback, you'll find orthopedic underwear. Cloud! You can tell her that you're kidding or say it's true. I always thought that orthopedic underwear had to be a strange translation of training bra, but no matter the intention, it's some good comedy gold right there. Inside her room, you could play the piano, but to play a song, you basically have to break the Da Vinci Code, so I didn't do that or look up a walkthrough on this run. This might be a good time to admit that I've never read or seen the Da Vinci Code, so I have no idea how accurate that joke is. It just sounded funny in my head. Moving on, Cloud eventually returns to Sephiroth. He has a hired guide to take them to the reactor in the mountains, but Cloud rests up until the morning. When they awaken and meet their guide, it's Tifa. She's rocking the hell out of a cowboy getup, looking like a young and naive girl. She assures Cloud that she's the best guide in town. Plus, Cloud is there to protect her. Before they leave, a townsperson asks for a photo of Sephiroth and the young Nibelheim pair. He begrudgingly takes the photo. On their way to the peak of Mount Nibel, their rope bridge collapses. Cloud is ever the bodyguard and grabs her arm to save her. Deeper into the mountain, they find a Mako fountain. This is a naturally occurring phenomenon. There's a large materia at the center of this fountain, pure and concentrated Mako energy. The knowledge of the ancients is harnessed within these stones, and one may use it to produce magic. Cloud refers to this as a mysterious power, and Sephiroth audibly laughs at him. A man once told him to never use terms like mysterious power or even magic. That man was Hojo, who was assigned to take over from the former head as scientist at Shinra. They eventually make it to the reactor, and Cloud joins Sephiroth inside while Tifa waits out front. Sephiroth takes a peek in one of the strange pods inside the reactor and seems to have a revelation. He speaks aloud to Hojo and says he will never be on the same level as Professor Gast. Hojo is using this condensed Mako energy to create specimens, much like we have experienced prior in the lab. Normal members of Soldier are showered with Mako energy, but these creatures have been soaked. Cloud innocently asks Sephiroth what makes him different from normal members of Soldier. This causes him to have a realization. Is he the same as these monsters? One of these creatures bursts free of its pod. All the strange monsters that you've fought during the course of the game, and the ones that you will continue to fight till its conclusion, were all created due to intense Mako energy concentrations. Shinra really is responsible for so much of the world's unrest. After this incident at the reactor, Sephiroth retired to an old mansion in Nibelheim. He disappeared for some time. Cloud finds him in a hidden room at the bottom of the mansion. The room has research notes strewn about. Jenova was found in an archaeological dig. She was 2,000 years old and confirmed to be an ancient. This find was the kicking off point for Mako reactor technology. Sephiroth continued to feverishly look for answers to his existence down the basement of the mansion. Sometime later, Cloud returns and Sephiroth has changed his demeanor. The Cetra, or the Ancients, were a race that traveled, settling from planet to planet. Eventually, there were some who decided to stop the migrations and settle here, on this planet. Those people were Cloud's ancestors. A long time ago, there was a great catastrophe and the planet was saved by sacrificing the Cetra. Only the race that hid remained. Sephiroth laments that all that is left of the Cetra is in the reports he has to read. He has heard tale of a Jenova project. He now realizes that he was the Jenova project. Using cells of the Jenova specimen, Sephiroth was created by Professor Gast, the predecessor to Hojo. He's had enough of the conversation with Cloud and has decided to visit his mother. Leaving the mansion, Cloud sees the path of destruction that Sephiroth has left behind. First, he runs to his mother's house. It's too late for her. He catches Sephiroth still on the rampage. Cloud goes back to the reactor. He arrives in time to see Tifa get eviscerated. He sets her aside. He promised he would come if she was ever in trouble. Cloud interrupts Sephiroth as he speaks to his mother. I think this is stunning. Cloud passionately tells Sephiroth that their sadness is one and the same, to which Sephiroth scoffs. He has nothing to be sad about. He is the chosen one. He will be the leader of this planet. Cloud stands to fight his former mentor. His story ends there, as does his memory. He knows that he couldn't possibly have stood a chance in a 1v1 confrontation, but he can't remember. The official story is that Sephiroth died that day. This explains Cloud's fascination with Sephiroth. He can't understand how he survived. He has to find the truth. Before they take their leave, Tifa asks just how bad she was injured by Sephiroth, and Cloud responds that he was sure she was a goner. It seems like maybe there was more to be said, but they end it there for now and depart. Back on the world map, you get the mistaken feeling of freedom. Really, you're blocked into one path by a mountain range. Blocking the cave in the mountains is some kind of mysterious creature named the Zolom. You don't want to mess with this guy right now. A stop at Chocobilly's can get what you need to catch yourself a chocobo in the wild. There are areas with chocobo tracks in the world map. While walking in these tracks, you have a chance to initiate a battle with a chocobo mixed in with the enemies. Check out this awesome track that signals the choco arrival. For the unfamiliar, these bird creatures have been a staple of the series since the second entry. If you can kill the enemies before scaring off the chocobo, then he's yours to take for a ride. Your choco friend helps you get past the Midgar Zolom. By the entrance to the cave in the mountain, you find another Zolom skewered on a tree. There's only one man capable of that, and it's Sephiroth. Henceforth, in every town you visit, you will ask around, and people will tell you about a man with a black cape they saw, or a man with white hair, something along those lines. I always giggle at this. Obviously, the game is letting you know that you're still on Sephiroth's tail, but if I saw a guy walking around with that outlandish sword, I would not describe him as the man with the black cape. You traverse through the cave in the mountain, and once again run into the Turks, and the final member of the gang you had not yet to come in contact with. Elena is the newest member of the Turks, who was hired after Reno was temporarily put out of commission after your last encounter. She explains that, for now, the Turks are also hunting Sephiroth, and they've been charged with stopping the gang from interfering with his activities. They also give you a very video game speech. Now don't you dare follow us to our next destination at Junon Harbor. Very smooth. They take their leave and get out of the cave. Before we travel anywhere, I wanted to get an optional side character. Her name is Yuffie, and she appears at random in forested areas of the world map. First, you have to defeat her in battle. Next, you have to talk to her in the field, and you have some conversation options with her. If you answer her questions correctly, she'll join your party as a full-time party member. Should you answer poorly, she will steal from you and make an escape. Should you decide to use this handy save point in the battlefield? Yep, she gets away again. A dummy save point, the oldest trick in the book. I eventually answered correctly and had her join my party. She is the most effective thief with steal materia due to her naturally high dex stat, so I immediately put her to work on my crew. I won't elaborate too much on this, but I took a detour to Fort Condor at this point. The open world has started to give us options, so I chose to take one. The fort has a giant condor and a Mako reactor up top. Shinra has been persistently attacking the fort for access to the reactor as it contains some sort of special materia, but the condor is presently warming its egg. The members of the fort are putting up a valiant fight to protect it. You can invest resources in the fort to protect it. The minigame is open for return on numerous occasions, and this is the first. It's a very simple and primitive tower defense minigame. The minigame does not hold up much to scrutiny, but again, it's a fun little diversion. Also, I wanted to make note of the fort and its condor up top. Now the question is, where do we go next? I know, you're clueless. To the golden... No, it's Junon Harbor. It's Junon Harbor. There's a small town at the base of Junon. You can access the harbor directly. Down by the water, you rescue a little girl named Priscilla and her pet dolphin from a very large water creature. After taking care of the creature, Priscilla lies motionless on the beach. Quick! She needs CPR! Mouth to mouth? But she's just a girl. Cloud is a bit of a wiener. After you complete the CPR minigame, yeah, they had a minigame for CPR. Priscilla's family thanks Cloud, and they rest up at the house while Priscilla is recovering. Alone with his thoughts, Cloud has inner questions about his story in Nibelheim. Tifa was his guide. How come the two didn't spend more time together during this reunion? He just can't remember. Cloud asks Tifa directly what her recollection was. She is evasive, and their conversation ends abruptly as they're called outside. Priscilla has regained consciousness, and as thanks, she gives Cloud a gift of a whistle. In the most 90s gamey shit ever, you can use this whistle to have the dolphin help you ascend your way to the upper streets in the harbor. Look, it's 1997, guys. Roll with it. Before you make it to the streets, you're mistaken for a Shinra soldier, and they dress you up. There's an ongoing military parade to impress the new president. You're gonna be on TV, damn it. Make us look good. This is another minigame where you have to perform for the cameras. You want to fit in as any of the other outfits in the parade. I did not succeed at this. Believe it or not, I have not mentioned every single little minigame so far. The game's chock full of them. So anyways, I tank the ratings, I get berated by the superior officer of the army I am not a part of. I explored the assorted businesses in Junon, while dressed in the guise of a Shinra soldier. The Materia shop features girls to attract business. No charge for a smile. The shop owner says he has to do this to compete, but he's just sad they make more money than him. In a bar, you can find the Turks relaxing. They're here to protect the president. After exploring, there's a redemption arc to my parade failures. Assuming I can follow commands and do some QuickTime events, I may be able to impress the president. The thing is, since I'm playing on PC, the command prompts are funky as hell, so remembering which button is which, it's an issue. I somehow performed rather honorably. Once we were dismissed, I snuck into the boat sailing across the ocean to Costa del Sol. This segment continued to bring a smile to my face. As the boat crosses the ocean, Cloud is given time to explore the ship. He's not the only stowaway. Yuffie is having a rough go on the ocean water. Eris is dressed in similar garb as Cloud, and she too is below deck. On top of the deck, Cloud finds Tifa, who isn't enjoying the uniform, but does appear to be enjoying the act of hiding out. Red 13 is hardly fitting in, and these campy animations still trigger a chuckle in me all these years later. He says he thinks that he makes a fine human being, which is a thing humans say. In the front of the ship, Barrett fits in about as well as Nanaki. He's peeking in at the president while dressed like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Suddenly an alarm sounds in the ship indicating a stowaway. All of our stowaways meet up on the top deck and realize the alarm is not sounding for them. Sephiroth must have come along for the ride. You form a party of 3, and back down below deck, you find that someone has done a number on the crew. When you engage the Shinra officer in the engine room, he too is dead. Sephiroth has indeed returned. He doesn't remember Cloud, which is kind of a dick move, really. Before we get any concrete answers on his motives or what his plans are, he makes an exit. He leaves behind another Jenova monstrosity to deal with. It's actually just the arm of Jenova left over from the lab at Shinra HQ. Cloud recounts what they know and begins to hypothesize. 5 years ago, Sephiroth began searching for the Promised Land to rule the world with Jenova, and he was stopped. He's returned to kill the president. He was carrying Jenova with him. He must be planning to bring Jenova with him to the Promised Land to enact his plan to become ruler of it. Cloud asks himself, does the Promised Land really exist? The rest of the boat ride continues without incident. Without any crew? Shut up and stop asking questions. You saw Barrett's outfit. He was a born sailor. Clearly he seized control of the boat and took us there. At the docks, Barrett is happy to remove his outfit. Eris laments that she's sad that it's gone, as she thought it was cute. Tifa suggests he could use it as pajamas. Cloud tells him he looked like a bear wearing a marshmallow. Cold-blooded. The president and Heidegger leave the boat to get on a helicopter, confirming that Sephiroth did not kill all the crew. This dashes my Barrett sailing hypothesis. It still lives on in my heart. He departs in his helicopter after berating his henchmen. Costa del Sol is a resort town. It's more of a pit stop in terms of the story. You could talk to people in town for flavor, but there are no major story bits here. I recall seeing Hojo lounging on the beach after taking leave from Shinra on prior playthroughs. I did not catch that here. There are girls on the beach who mention him, but there might be a trigger I missed. Just know that I acknowledged it here. There are also more sightings of the man in the black cape. Maybe you went to the Golden Saucer or Mount Coral? The next stop is to make your way through the Mithril Mines on your way to North Coral. It turns out that North Coral was Barrett's hometown. People here recognize him. They more than recognize him. They cold cock him one and call him a walking death sentence. They blame him for turning his town into a garbage heap. He simply hangs his head in shame and apologizes. He tells the gang that it was indeed his fault that the town was destroyed, but he elaborates no further. The party go to take the train to the Golden Saucer. He explains that the town was actually buried and no longer exists. Coral was a mining town. Shinra wanted to install a Mako reactor. The whole town agreed that this reactor could enrich their lives, but one man named Dine refused to throw away their coal industry. Yeah, this story is about to make you root for big coal. 1997, folks. Barrett's friend Dine has to be convinced that Mako is the future and Cole is the past. Scarlet from Shinra enters the fray and assures the town's livelihood will continue up to the completion of the reactor. Barrett has the final word and wants to ensure the future of his wife, Myrna. This seals it. The coral reactor was built and completed. One day things went terribly wrong. Dine and Barrett were gone and Shinra returned to the hometown and burned it to the ground. They killed everyone. The reactor exploded, and to cover their tracks, Shinra blamed rebels and destroyed any evidence of their failings. This explains Barrett's disdain for Shinra. They took his village and even his wife Myrna. The gang takes the tram into Golden Saucer, and it's a complete tonal whiplash after his somber tale. The Golden Saucer is the Disneyland of this world. Inside, Barrett cannot be cheered up so close to home. The rest of the gang wants to party though. Barrett takes his leave and you're free to explore. Many of the side quests and optional minigames in Final Fantasy VII take place at this location. There's a battle square, chocobo racing, an arcade that includes some of the minigames you've already played so far, and some that are soon to come. It's a good time. There's an inn on the premises and it's dressed up like a haunted mansion graveyard for character. The Golden Saucer is a good time. If you make your way to the Wonder Square, you will meet a strange bootleg-ass Barney character. He pleads to read Cloud's fortune. Now there is no voice dialogue in this game, so your impressions of characters are purely based on their speech and their character model. I've always imagined he spoke in a slow drawl. He looks like a big dummy, and my inner voice for him is dumb AF. His name is Cait Sith. This was the original name in the PS1 game, so I'll be sticking with that. I'll have no comments from the peanut gallery about translations and the like. So anyways, he's a walking fortune-telling machine, and after a couple failed attempts, he gives a fortune that reads, "What you pursue will be yours, but you will lose something dear." The giant stuffed animal assures you this has never happened before. It won't be satisfied till it gets to the bottom of this, so for now, we get another party member. Spoiler alert, don't use him in your party. He's about as effective in combat as harsh language. His primary weapon is a megaphone, for crying out loud. I won't be saying much about Cait Sith unless prompted to by the story. There's more to his character later that adds more interest to him. He's a cat with a megaphone on top of a giant stuffed Moogle. I love this premise, but he's dumb, and I think I might actually hate him. Now that I've finished saying most of the mean things I'm gonna say, at the Coliseum, the party finds a dead guard. Further in, more dead crew members. One of the injured mentions a man with a gun for an arm. Would it surprise you if I said that somehow our friends here get blamed for this massacre by the owner of the Golden Saucer, Dio? Also, he dresses like this, for which I will provide no judgment. The sentence for their crimes is a trip down to the penal camp below the saucer. It's a desert prison. A natural barrier stops those who would think to escape. Barrett is down here, and he makes a break from the crew. He doesn't deny doing the crime. Multiple prisoners down here make mention of a boss who runs this prison. It's unclear exactly who it is, but there is a means of escape. If we get this boss's permission, then we can race in the chocobo races. Barrett is hiding out in a nearby building, and he's acting pretty cagey. Homie is Wyatt Earp at this point. The party asks Barrett bluntly if he is the man with the gun arm that murdered all those people. He explains he is not the only one who has had a gun grafted on his arm. Barrett and his friend Dine were returning to the village at the start of the carnage. They caught a bird's eye view of the city in ruin. On their way back to the village, they witnessed the Shinra soldiers attacking people firsthand, and they continued their getaway. Barrett held on to his friend and reassured him that he has to come back to the village as Eleanor and Marlene were waiting for him. Shinra straight blasted his arm off. That's anime as fuck. His grafted on gun arm was basically a middle finger to Shinra. Dine survived that fall somehow, and he too got a gun grafted on. But this was on his other arm. Suspicions are that he is the man who now runs this camp. Barrett wants to go it alone, but the group won't allow it. He's their friend, and this is their fight too. Deep in the desert, they find their hideout. When Barrett confronts Dine, neither of them are the same people from Coral. Dine is a bitter man, and he says that Eleanor's voice begs him not to hate Barrett's rotten guts. Why did Dine murder innocent people that had no affiliation with Shinra? He wants to destroy everything. His heart is filled with a murderous rage. Dine has nothing left. No Eleanor, no Marlene. Barrett assures him that Marlene is actually still alive. He returned to the town and searched for survivors and miraculously found Marlene. Barrett wants to return with Dine so he can see her. Dine sees it differently. They need to fight. He says Eleanor is all alone and he has to bring Marlene to her. Dine is a lost cause. It's time for a murdering. Dine limps away from the fight. He didn't just lose an arm on that day, but something else much more irreplaceable. Barrett doesn't want Dine to die, but Dine hasn't seen Marlene in years. He fears she wouldn't recognize him, and he says his hands are too stained to carry her anymore. Dine tosses a pendant to Barrett. It was his wife Eleanor's. He asks that it be delivered to Marlene. His last words to Barrett, "Don't you ever make her cry." Barrett despairs as he watches his friend plunge to his death off the cliff. He mutters, "My hands ain't any cleaner. I shouldn't carry Marlene either." With the boss dead, there are no obstacles stopping us from joining the chocobo races to get out of here. The premise of winning a chocobo race to escape a case of multiple homicides is ridiculous and would never happen in reality. It's not like professional athletes and entertainers are held to a different standard. Chocobo racing starts off as an easy affair. This race to escape the prison is darn easy. Later, if you choose to breed and race your own chocobos, the races won't come as easy. The race win means a full pardon. Your party is released from custody. Dio, the owner of the Golden Saucer, heard about Dine. Not only do you get your pardon, you're given a gift of a buggy that can drive through the terrain on the world map that you could normally not traverse, including shallow rivers and deserts. You now have a few options for locations to go to, but I first headed to Gongaga. You can stumble upon Reno and Rude discussing which of the ladies in your party they have a crush on. Rude is a Tifa man. Reno feels bad for poor Elena, but Rude reassures him that she's into Sung. He claims that Sung has a thing for Eris. Elena walks behind us. She thinks these dumb boys are always talking about which girls they like, and it's so childish. Sung is different though. Ooh, you go get it, girl. Now these poor Turks have got to get it again. After the fight, it's clear. The party was followed here. Barrett suspects a spy, but no one wants to believe it. Down the path is an old broken reactor. Scarlet from Shinra is inspecting it with Sung. She is looking for a huge materia, and she says old junky reactors leave behind junky materia. As established before, materia is concentrated Mako energy. Materia is concentrated Mako energy, so those reactors can build up and leave behind powerful remnants. She's dissatisfied with these results, and she wants to find a huge materia for use in weapon development, as they now have an expanded budget after Hojo's departure from Shinra. The Shinra personnel leave, and Cloud reaches in to find a Titan materia. I haven't spoken about materia types in any measure of detail yet, but I want to briefly do so here. Materia have a color. Green materia are magic types. Yellow materia are command materia and add skills like steel. Blue materia are support materia like all materia. If socketed with other materia, they can add an effect. All adds the effect of targeting all opponents. A fire materia by itself can cast fire on one materia. Fire, when combined with all, can target the whole group. Likewise with cure, etc. Purple materia is independent materia and can add effects that don't have to be paired with others. Their effects are vast. Some can be added to boost HP, MP, or magic damage. One of my favorite pairings in the game is linking the purple cover materia and counterattack materias. Cover makes the character jump in front of attacks meant for weaker characters. Counterattack gives a free attack that doesn't waste a character's turn. The pair can lead to tons of extra damage. The final type is red summon materia. Summons have had a huge role in Final Fantasy for years. Fan favorites Shiva, Ifrit, Bahamut, Ramu are all in this game. They use tons of MP. A level 1 summon may only be used in battle once. A level 2 may be used twice. You get the picture. I didn't plan on really going too deep into the turn-based combat or gameplay, as most people understand what turn-based combat entails, but the materia system is unique to Final Fantasy VII, or at least it was. Since then, many JRPGs have incorporated similar systems with different names. As I said before, I enjoy this system, and only the Gear and Magic system from Final Fantasy IX beats it in my hierarchy for the series. Continuing into Gongaga Village, your party finds a hut with an older couple who recognize the Mako-showered eyes of Cloud. They ask him if he knows their son Zack. 10 years ago, he left for the city saying he wanted to join Soldier, and they haven't heard from him. Cloud does not seem to know, but Tifa shows some glimmer of recognition. The parents say 6 years ago he wrote and mentioned some kind of girlfriend, and they ask Tifa if it was her. She says it wasn't her, but she seems uncomfortable and takes her leave. When alone, Cloud asks Tifa directly if she knew him, and she denies it in the most uncomfortable way possible. She tells Cloud that Zack's actions remind her of something Cloud would do. He just up and left for fame and glory, leaving behind his friends and family. The story has hit a nerve for Tifa, and Cloud is forced to walk her back from the edge. The next area I visited was a sacred place called Cosmo Canyon. Due to the fact that I renamed Red 13 Nanaki, it might make reading these conversations with the residents of Cosmo Canyon confusing. This is his home that he's returning to, and they all greet him as Nanaki. This is a sacred place, and they initially turn our party away, but Nanaki vouches for everyone to gain entry. He explains that his tribe were protectors of those who appreciate this beautiful canyon and the planet. His mother fought and died here, but his cowardly father fled. He is now the last of his race. Their conversation is ended as a voice calls for him. He goes running to the voice he identifies as his grandpa's. Exploring Cosmo Canyon reveals a clear Native American inspiration. The Cosmo Canyon music still stirs something in me. Barrett is anxious. He's heard of a man who studied the planet here. As a fellow lover of the planet, he's always wanted to visit this place. He says one could say that this place is where Avalanche was born. Now, Avalanche is no more, and he doesn't know where to go from here. Following Nanaki leads Cloud to his grandfather, Bugenhagen. Nanaki is clearly in awe of his knowledge. Bugenhagen explains that Nanaki is actually just a youth. His species lives to a ripe old age. A 48-year-old Nanaki is just a teen in the age of his species. His quiet and wizened persona belies his youth. Bugen hints at a reckoning that is coming for the planet. He says that the planet may die tomorrow or 100 years from now, but he's certain that it's coming. Much like Eris, Bugenhagen can hear the cries of the planet. Using his instruments, you too can hear the cries. You can now assemble a party to bring to Bugenhagen's laboratory. I brought Barrett since he was so interested in this place. It's basically a three-dimensional model of the solar system. It looks familiar for some reason. Bugenhagen explains what Eris has hinted at in the past. When a person dies, their body decomposes, but their soul returns to the planet. All souls in the universe are much the same. He calls this swirling mass of soul energy the lifestream. When a new being is born, they are given some of the spirit energy and the cycle continues. He demonstrates that this spirit energy is what makes the planets possible. If it were to be removed, the life of the planets could no longer exist. Barrett was right. The Mako energy being extracted by Shinra has disrupted the life cycle of the planet. Shinra is quite literally marketing and selling the souls of the past lives of the planet. When Bugenhagen is asked about Nanaki's father, he seems to dismiss the thought of his father being a coward. Before the party depart from Cosmo Canyon, they sit by the fire and contemplate what they've learned. Barrett mourns the lives of Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. He promised once their fight was won, they would visit here. Now they can only do so in spirit. Barrett swears that he will continue the fight to protect the planet. Eris feels all alone. Cloud reminds her that this party is here with her, but she reminds him she is, in fact, the last of her kind. Cloud walks away as she silently contemplates. Tifa starts to ask Cloud about 5 years ago at Nibelheim, but stops herself. She asks him, "You really are you, right?" The question remains unanswered. Nanaki is proud to recall his strong mother, but his father's memory fills his heart with anger. He left his mother for dead when the Gi tribe attacked. Bugenhagen interrupts. He has something Nanaki should see. He takes their party to a cave that was closed off. The cave is filled with spirits of the Gi. Bugenhagen tells the story of the Gi tribe who were killed in battle. Their spirits were unable to return to the life stream, so these vengeful spirits were locked away in the cave. The Gi were attacking the inhabitants of Cosmo Canyon, but they struggled due to a narrow passage. A lone warrior fought them off as they attacked single file. In the back of the cave, the party have to fight off the leader of the Gi natow. You can defeat him by using cure magic since he's undead, but I chose not to do so in this run. In most of the Final Fantasy games, undead enemies are weak to cure and life magic, and this is no exception. After his defeat, Bugen thanks the party for defeating the enemy. He has something very important to show Nanaki outside of the cave. He shows Nanaki the lone warrior who kept the Gi tribe from taking even a single step into the canyon. It is Nanaki's father, the warrior Seto. He fought even as the Gi's poison turned him to stone. He continues to guard the canyon to this day. Nanaki's father was no coward. He was the most courageous warrior of the tribe. His mother asked that the cave be sealed shut and forgotten. Once alone with Nanaki, Bugenhagen asks Nanaki to continue the fight with our story. Bugenhagen is unsure if the planet can truly be saved. He's sure that if there is something to be done, he feels that Nanaki should do it. Bugen is about to be 130. He's too old to help. He's glad to have shared the truth of Nanaki's father before he passed. Nanaki cannot imagine a world without his beloved grandpa. He promises to do his best to save the planet. He, Nanaki of Cosmo Canyon, the son of warrior Seto. Even in stone, Seto still watches from above. When I internally reminisce on this game, Cosmo Canyon is where the bulk of the fond memories lie. I played Final Fantasy VII when I was 14 after my freshman year in high school. I'll be 38 by the release of this video. Actually, I just turned 38 as I'm recording this. The story of Red 13 still resonates with me. After the party leaves, their next stop is the town of Nibelheim. Entering the town is peculiar. Didn't this town burn down 5 years ago? Tifa and Cloud are confused. They're puzzled. They're compuzzled. The inhabitants of the town seem to dismiss the thought that the town had any measure of damage dealt to it. While investigating the different buildings in the town, there are strange cloaked figures mumbling about a reunion. They have tattoos with numbers on them. Some of them are actively talking about Sephiroth. Going back to the mansion where Sephiroth was holed up in previously, you can find him in the back of the room in the basement. He asks Cloud if he plans on participating in the reunion. Jenova will join reunion and become a calamity from the skies. Cloud has more questions than answers, but Sephiroth beckons him back to Mount Nibel to find his answers. Sephiroth does a Superman impression and takes his leave. I won't elaborate on the process, but conclusion is that you can unlock a room down in the basement of the mansion. In the room is a closed casket. There's a man here. He's been awakened from a long slumber, for which he meant to atone for some kind of sins. If you speak to him about Sephiroth, it seems to pique his interest. He seems aware of Sephiroth in a different context from the party. He asks of a woman named Lucretia that he describes as Professor Gas' assistant. Look, I'm sorry, I'm trying to record this since my kids are at school right now and I had a day off, but there's helicopters flying above me, so I'm sorry ahead of time. She was subjected to an experiment that he regrets, and he could not stop it. We know that Vincent must be old, as Professor Gas has since perished and was replaced by Hojo. As the crew begins to leave the mansion, they're stopped by Vincent. He asks if joining them would lead to a meeting with Hojo. Perhaps their path might lead to a meeting. He decides to join. I love the character design of Vincent and the mad vampire vibe he emits, but as an in-game party member, he leaves something to be desired for me. Much like Kate Sith, I'll speak of him minimally unless necessary. The friends make their way through to Mount Nebel and past the old reactor, and now they can make their way to a strange town with a giant rocket featured prominently at its rear. The townsfolk speak of an old captain in town. The rocket is called Shinra number 26. Sadly, it never got off the ground on takeoff. In the backyard, one of the houses, there is an old aircraft. The crew admire it, and the woman comes out the back and tells them that they would have to ask the captain to use it. He can be found at the old rocket. Her name is Shara, and she is the captain's assistant. He is sad to hear that they are not here with Shinra. Shinra is set to come and visit to discuss the space program. Inside the rocket, you're introduced to the captain, Sid. He's a salty old fella. He tells us that Shinra is not only a power company, but a weapons manufacturer. They once had a space program that was heavily funded. Sid had no interest in warfare, but he had big dreams of making it to space. He was chosen as the first astronaut since he was the self-professed best pilot in the world. Sid says that because of the dumbass Shara, the launch got messed up. The launch failure cooled Shinra's plans on space travel, and they ceased giving funds to the program. Once they found the profitability of Mako energy, it was all over for Sid's dream of seeing space. He has never given up hope, though. His last hope is to speak to the new president. If you ask him for use of the tiny Bronco, his aircraft, he shuts you down immediately. It's his most cherished possession. Inside his home, you can speak to Shara. Sid is incredibly rude to her. Shara doesn't seem to mind his demeanor. She's understanding because she's the reason his dreams didn't come true. Flashing back to the day of the launch, Sid is busting Shara's chops about how slow she's working. He clearly appreciates how smart she is, but he's just got a crude way about him. Preparations are now complete and it's time for launch. Excitement is in the air and Sid prepares for the countdown. An alarm sounds. Someone's still in the engine section. Shara was dissatisfied with the results of the oxygen test and has continued to work inside. She tells Sid to take off anyways. This will cook her alive. She understands the consequences and is only committed to the safe launch. Stopping the countdown will be a delay of at least 6 months till the next possible launch. She is about to make him a murderer. Sid knows what he has to do to save Shara and aborts the launch at the last second. The ship stops engines abruptly and lands in a precarious spot that you found it on arrival to the town. His dreams were killed that day, and this is why she'll put up with his treatment of her. She says she will live her life for him. Palmer from Shinra walks in the door and Sid immediately asks when the space program is set to start up again. The president is outside and he will be the one to ask. Since Shara is making tea, Palmer asks to have some. He takes it with sugar, honey, and lard. Out front, Rufus is not here to start the space program up again. He wants the tiny Bronco. Shara takes the party out back. Palmer is on the tiny Bronco, poised to take it. Nah, I don't think that's gonna happen. There's a silly boss fight with Palmer. He's a joke. The gang jumps in on the tiny Bronco and Sid joins them as Shara fires upon them. Sid tells them, the tail's been hit. Hold on to your drawers and don't piss in them. He has a way with words. The tiny Bronco can't fly anymore, but the crew turns it into a boat. With his bridges burned with Shinra, Sid decides to join the party. Rufus told Sid he was tracking Sephiroth to the Temple of the Ancients. That will be our next major story area. You have the tiny Bronco now. It can travel over shallow water, and you have more freedom than ever. I used this freedom to travel to Wutai. Arriving at this isolated continent seems to get Yuffie jumpy. Shinra soldiers interject, and Yuffie bails while the party has to deal with the soldiers. After the battle, the party realizes that Yuffie stole all their materia. They track her down in a city called Wutai. The people of this town all treat you strangely. The weapon shop claims they're sold out while clearly displaying massive arms on the wall. Inside the bar, you can find the Turks on their leisure time. Elena threatens the party and they're ready for an attack, but Reno says they won't fight as this is their vacation. The Materia shop is much like the weapon shop and they claim that they too are out. You can find a Materia on the floor, which Yuffie promptly appears to steal as well. Did I tell you that she's the best thief that you can add to your party? There's a man lying in bed named Godo. He claims to have never heard of Yuffie. He says it a bit too aggressively to be taken seriously. He asks if the party has anything to do with Shinra. This conversation shakes Yuffie out of the woodwork and she begins berating Godo. This conversation leads to the truth of Wutai. They have fought with Shinra in the past and lost. Yuffie yearns for the glory days when Wutai had a backbone and fought back. It also turns out that Godo is actually Yuffie's father, and they are clearly in the middle of a bit of a spat. Yuffie disappears, and you have to track her down in assorted locations in the village. I'll cut to the point here and just explain that it leads to her eventually getting kidnapped by old friend Don Corneo. Reno and Rude tell you that Elena was kidnapped as well, and they believe they know where she is. The group teams up with the Turks in this moment of shared interests. Elena and Yuffie are being suspended on the face of the in-game equivalent of Mount Rushmore. The Don chooses Yuffie as his lady of the night. He is greasy as ever. When the Super Friends arrive, he's forced to call his pet to fight the battle for him. This can potentially be difficult at this point of the game, since you have no materia to work with. You can only heal with items, so I hope your team can do enough damage to finish him off. After his pet is defeated, Corneo uses his trap card, and is set to drop Elena and Yuffie. Reno and Rude arrive and it's time for them to settle the score. They ask Corneo why they would go through the hassle of teaming up with their enemies to get him. Reno drops him to his demise. The correct answer was, because it's their job. Reno again tells Elena to stop acting weak. She's a Turk. The company calls them and tells them to hunt our party down. Reno responds that today is their day off. With Yuffie saved, she's grateful to our gang and returns their materia to them. It's clear that she's been accumulating materia in an effort to restore a powerful Wutai that can fight back against the Shinra forces. If you return to the weapons and materia shops now, they will sell you things, as Yuffie had told them not to deal with you. There's a combat challenge at the pagoda that you can go through, but you're not nearly powerful enough to do that yet. With that aside completed, it's time to take the tiny Bronco to the Temple of the Ancients. But where is it? And how do we get in? There's a man in a hut by himself that tells of a keystone. It's said to unlock entry to the temple. He also says that the temple harbors ultimate destruction magic. That's not ominous at all. Rumor has it that the owner of the golden saucer has seized possession of the keystone, so that's our next stop. He does indeed have it in a showroom. While Cloud admires it, Dio walks in. He makes Cloud an offer. He'll give him the keystone if Cloud entertains him in the arena. The arena features waves of enemies. After each wave is complete, a wheel is spun. This can lead to breaking your materia, leaving you at half speed, and a variety of debuffs. Once you win in the arena, you have what you came for. The problem is, the tram breaks down and you are forced to stay the night at the Golden Saucer. The team assembles at the haunted mansion of an inn on site. At this point, the game gives you a have you been listening test, and Cloud recounts the story to this point. The main point being, Sephiroth is looking for a black materia at the Temple of the Ancients that has ultimate destruction power. The black men in cloaks spouting about reunion were clearly failed Genova experiments that want to meet with Sephiroth. The group retire to their rooms. Aeris enters Cloud's room, and it's time to settle her debt and go on a date with him. This is canon. Okay, not really. Depending on your choices at assorted prompts during the story, Cloud can go on a date with Tifa, Aeris, or Barrett. The achievements for this game ask that you do what you can to go on a date with Barrett. This bothers me because if you do that path, he's totally not into it. My canon is that Cloud goes on a date with Aeris that was preordained since the beginning of the game. At the event square, there's a theater production underway, and they can recruit Aeris and Cloud to participate as leads. You're given choices to control the story, and I chose to treat it seriously. Cloud, the legendary hero Alfred, and Aeris, the Princess Rosa, who have been kidnapped by the evil Dragon King Valvados. Cloud kisses the princess, and the power of love conquers the evil Dragon King. After the performance, Cloud and Aeris take the gondola to enjoy the sights of the Golden Saucer from above. Aeris begins that she was initially unnerved as Cloud reminded her so heavily of her first boyfriend when she met him. He is indeed different, though. She's searching for him. She wants to meet him. "But I'm right here," he responds. She repeats that she would like to meet him. At this point, I don't think Cloud realizes how confused he is about his own identity. This date is very G-rated, but I find this romantic moment more appealing than any of the romance scenes in Mass Effect or The Witcher. It feels like awkward and dumb puppy love. Maybe that's my own sentimentality dripping onto the pages of the script. One thing I could say for certain, this was the most well-done romance I had seen to this point in 1997. The date ends, and it has a bit of a bittersweet feel. As they're on their way back to their rooms, they encounter Cait Sith, who has the keystone. They follow him on a wild goose chase that ends as he passes off the keystone to Shinra agents. When confronted, he admits he was a Shinra spy. His idea is that they continue as nothing had happened and ignore his betrayal. They can't kill him after all, as his body is just a toy. He clarifies that his real body is at Shinra HQ, where he's controlling the Cap from here. He admits to be a Shinra employee, but he claims they're not enemies. He doesn't understand the party's way of life. He's trying to understand them. Aeris and Cloud refuse to continue with him, so Cait Sith uses the nuclear option. He plays audio of a captured Marlene. The pair are dumbfounded, and Cait Sith nonchalantly walks away. Tomorrow is the Temple of the Ancients. Rest up. Shinra's made it to the temple before us. Cait Sith assured us of that. Aerith kneels at its gate, and she could feel the power of the Ancients. She can hear voices, but can't understand them. More of Sephiroth's followers are here. Sung is on site. He's wounded. Sephiroth has tricked him. He isn't looking for the Promised Land. It was the destructive power of the black materia he was after. Sung leaves the gang the keystone and collapses to the floor. Aeris knows that the Turks have done terrible things, and they've fought against her best interests, but Sung also has known her since childhood, and it hurts her to see him like this. The Temple of the Ancients is constructed like MC Escher's Wet Dreams. It's easy to get lost here. The mix of a 2D rendered background with strange shadows can make it difficult to read a proper path at times. The spirit of the Ancients remain in the temple to protect it from outsiders. Aeris can speak to them, but can't fully comprehend what's wrong. At a pool deeper in the temple, she hears more voices that warn her of an evil consciousness. It gives her a glimpse of the past. Sung and Elena stand at some kind of ancient mural. Sephiroth reveals himself and puts Sung to the blade. It's not just Aeris who saw this projection, but Cloud and Tifa too. They have to find that room. They bypass further challenges, including a clock puzzle with assorted doors to investigate. Eventually, they stumble upon the room from the vision. They have yet another vision of Sephiroth. Sephiroth is muttering things about becoming one with the planet and other things that are nonsense to Cloud at this point. He points to the mural, which show a ball in the sky hurtling at the planet. Finally, his plot is revealed. When the planet is hurt, it harnesses the power of the lifestream to heal the injury. What if he utilized the ultimate destructive magic to threaten the life of the planet? He plans to harness all of that energy for himself and wield it to become a new life form. He believes this will make him a god. The depiction on the mural was, in fact, a giant meteor headed for impact with the planet. This is the destructive power of black materia. Sephiroth makes a typical Superman getaway. At this point, Cloud has started to lose it. He isn't hearing the voices anymore. He's full on cracking up. He's losing a sense of self. When he snaps out of it, Aeris and Tifa don't have time, or perhaps the will, to bring him up to speed on just how he has been acting. Back on the altar Sephiroth was sitting at, there's a small model of the Temple of the Ancients. It's labeled as the Black Materia. Cloud attempts to take it, so Sephiroth can't get his hands on it, but it's useless. Aeris confers with the spirits of the temple, and they tell her that there's a trick to this. The temple itself is the Black Materia. It was designed not to be taken. There are puzzles inside the temple that can be solved that will shrink it down to a usable size, but the trick is that anyone who solves the puzzle will be crushed inside. The trio are out of ideas, but they're sure that leaving the Black Materia will only expose it to Sephiroth or his flunkies. Cloud's words, not mine. Gotta leave some of that old translation flavor in there for ya. Remember all that mess I talked about Cait Sith? Well, he comes up clutch right now. He is essentially a giant stuffed animatronic. He volunteers his body to solving the puzzles in the temple. I wonder how this scene would go if you already had him in your party. I'll never know, because that's never gonna happen. As they say goodbyes to one another, Aeris asks that her fortune be read. He tests the compatibility of Cloud and Aeris, and he stops himself. Poor Tifa. This is my run, guys. My story! He says that the pair are perfect for each other. He thanks them for entrusting him with the task, in spite of the fact that he's a spy, and says farewell. Cait Sith is a goober and merrily stumbles to his task of solving puzzles in the temple. He succeeds at it, and the temple does indeed shrink down. At the base of the pit is a black materia down below. Cloud asks Aeris if she could use it, and she says only in a place of great spiritual power could grant the energy needed to use it. The Promised Land. Sephiroth isn't an ancient, and so he should not be capable of finding the Promised Land. Sephiroth immediately interjects. Oh, but he has. He claims to have traveled the lifestream and attained the knowledge of the ancients. This whole interlude at the temple was his plan to get a hold of the Black Materia all along. Faced with Sephiroth, Cloud breaks down again. His personality seems to split, and he's powerless to resist Sephiroth's power. He leaves behind a childish version of himself. Cloud willingly gives the Black Materia to Sephiroth. He seems to hold some kind of power over Cloud. He can't believe what he's done, and Aeris is remarkably understanding considering the circumstances. Right in the middle of her forgiving him, he begins to attack her. Shinra must have had mixed martial arts training because he has a savage ground and pound game. At a truly awkward time, Cait Sith number 2 decides to make an appearance. Well, that drains any drama from that death, I suppose. Tifa has to jump down and rescue Aeris. Cloud passes out and begins to dream. He's in a forest with Aeris playing peekaboo from the trees. Cloud apologizes for his behavior. Aeris is again remarkably cool about it. She tells Cloud not to worry about it. She'll deal with Sephiroth. She tells Cloud to take care of himself so he doesn't have another breakdown about it. Maybe she forgave, but she clearly didn't forget, if you feel me. He asks her where they are. She says it's the Sleeping Forest, which is on the trail to the City of the Ancients. She feels that Sephiroth is bound to be heading there soon, and her job is to protect it. Aeris tells Cloud that something is leading her to the city. She promises to return when it's all over. She takes her leave, and in classic dream mode, Cloud is stuck in mud and can't catch her. Sephiroth now joins the dream. If Aeris plans on interfering, then he plans to stop her soon. Cloud awakens and Aeris has taken her leave. The gang is out looking for her. Cloud tells them what he already knows. She's on her way to the Temple of the Ancients, and Sephiroth is in tow. This stirs the hornet's nest, and everyone is ready to chase after her but Cloud. What if he loses it again? Barrett is blunt. It's your fault Sephiroth has the Black Materia. Homie ain't wrong. The gang convinces Cloud to come along again, but, again, Cloud is clearly a liability in the face of Sephiroth. Barrett gives him a pep talk in the only way he can. I really love that big lug. The next area of interest is the Bone Village. It's an old archaeological dig site where Cloud can find a lunar heart to get through the sleeping forest. I'll bypass the formalities here and tell ya, we got it. Past the forest is the City of the Ancients. There are numerous paths to explore, and all the structures look like they were made out of enormous seashells. I think they were meant to look like some kind of adobe structures destroyed by time, but the coloration always reminded me of seashells. That's not story relevant. It's just interesting and memorable to me. Exploring around leads you to an old home that the gang can rest in. If you take a break here, your party will find Cloud already awake. My party had Barrett and Tifa at this point, and they ask what's wrong. Sephiroth is here with Eris. Cloud can feel it in his soul. It's time to get stepping. After descending a spiral crystalline staircase, you are at the city proper. You've also laid eyes on Eris, attentively praying by herself. Cloud makes his way to her alone. He leaps onto the platform with her, and he quickly starts to have another break. He's losing control again. He's stopped by the cries of his friends, and thus begins the most infamous scene in gaming history. Cloud catches the collapsing Eris and speaks for all of us when he says it cannot be real. Sephiroth assures Cloud that she will soon be back with the planet. He will head north as he believes the Promised Land to be over in the snowy fields. Cloud doesn't care about Sephiroth's plans. Aerith was taken from him, and they'll never speak again. He asks aloud, "What about us? What are we supposed to do?" He's never felt such torturous pain before. Cloud does not comprehend the surge of emotion he's feeling. Sephiroth teases him for his loss of control. The show of emotions seems to amuse him. Of course Cloud has emotions. Sephiroth sees this as play acting. He tells Cloud, "You are," and disappears, leaving behind another Jenova specimen to fight. The music never changes its somber tone during the entirety of the battle. If you're anything like I was at 14 when I first played this game, this boss fight was a dream. The sting of your loss lingers as you're forced to participate in this combat. Much like Cloud, I wasn't ready for it. After the fight, Jenova finishes Sephiroth's sentence, "Because you are a puppet." The party now sits at Eris's side, warning. The music is so goddamn good in this game. Watching back the footage and listening to it just still gets to my emotions. Cloud lays the last ancient down in the city of her people. Before I move on with the story, I want to go back to the cutscene of her death. This was 1997 graphics, and it certainly has been dated in a technical sense, but the direction is fantastic. Sephiroth descending from the sky and surprising everyone. Sephiroth looks towards Cloud, and Eris's materia from her mother falls from her head, and the music does not start until it hits the ground. She told Cloud the materia did nothing. It tumbles down below to rest in this, the City of the Ancients. Goddamn masterful. This cutscene deserved at least that much recognition in a video this long. Okay, it's time to get back to the present. The party is distraught. Cloud no longer trusts his own free will. He thought he came here to settle things with Sephiroth. He was told he was a puppet. He gave the black materia to Sephiroth. He would have hurt Eris if his friends didn't intervene. Cloud wants to quit this journey, but he can't. Sephiroth destroyed his hometown, killed Aerith, and now he wants to destroy this planet. He wants his friends to join him so they can stop him in case he loses it again. He doesn't know Aerith's motives for coming here alone, or how she planned on stopping the meteor. This was the end of Disc 1 in the PlayStation version of the game. It feels very abrupt after that story sequence to take you straight to a place called Icicle Inn, but that's the next area of consequence. Inside this small village, there's a woman who tells you her husband has disappeared 20 years ago to explore a great glacier at Gaia's Cliff. He hasn't returned. You could steal an old map off her wall. Of course, the Turks and Shinra show up. A child in town hurt himself snowboarding, and he's done with his thrill-seeking. Cloud gladly takes his snowboard and escapes down the hill out of the back of the town. Time for another minigame. I know this is not an in-depth gameplay video and it's more of a story recap, but everyone knows what turn-based combat looks like. These dumb minigames add a spice that's worth discussing. I played the hell out of this segment as a youth. Playing it now, I'm terrible at it. Also, I still enjoy it. I won't replay my Icicle Inn save anytime soon just to play the snowboard section, but I like it. Want to know what I don't like? The Great Glacier. Depending on the paths you take while snowboarding, it'll spit you out in different places. Your map that you found at the woman's house frustratingly lacks detail. I have way too much Great Glacier footage, so I'll skip through to the point where there's something of note to discuss story-wise. I will make note that I disliked this area back in the day, and the same is true now. It's the one area of the game where I felt like I was making no progress. Use a guide here. I was being stubborn not doing so. After a certain number of steps being lost on the glacier, you will succumb to the cold. When the party awakens, they're at a cabin. The woman's husband is here and has been so for the 20 years after the loss of his friend on their failed expedition. He gives you guidance for approaching Gaia's Cliff at the edge of the glacier. The temperatures are very cold and you have to warm yourself. As a player, this means hammering a single button at resting spots to bring your body temp up. It's a simple mechanic. You also have to make sure to find it. If you're stubborn like me, you will use this house as a centering point to learn the confusing ways of the glacier to properly explore it. Periodically, you'll pass out and reset at the cabin. Anyways, I don't like the glacier. My point's made. After you've made it past Gaia's Cliff to its peak, you'll see a wall of energy emanating from a crater. A long time ago, the planet was struck by something, and a massive energy came from the planet to restore itself. Sephiroth is using that energy to summon the meteor. The party charged down the crater, encountering numerous Sephiroth minions on their pilgrimage to their reunion with Sephiroth. Almost at his destination, Cloud sees something in the skies. Shinra have their own plans for dealing with Sephiroth. They too want control over this massive energy. Hojo does not see this as their energy. He sees it as the site of the reunion. Making it deep into the eye of the storm at the center of the crater, the gang sees Sephiroth mercilessly ending the lives of the men in black. They tell Sephiroth that this is the end, but he sees it as merely the end of this present body's usefulness. He disappears in a puff of smoke. Now they can sense the thoughts of Sephiroth's servants. Their purpose was to deliver the black materia to their master, those that had the cells of Jenova. While our group contemplates these thoughts, they're ambushed by Sephiroth. Again, you must fight a Jenova specimen. After the fight, Cloud puts it together. The Jenova cells. He doesn't have time to elaborate. The real Sephiroth is just past the horizon. He grabs hold of the black materia and gives it to one of his party members to hold for safekeeping while he goes into battle. I entrusted it to Nanaki. They head deeper still. Before reaching Sephiroth, the party has a collective apparition. Suddenly, they're back in Nibelheim. They're aware this is an illusion, so Cloud is sure that they should be in no danger. Sephiroth strolls into town behind them, just as he did in Cloud's retelling of the events 5 years ago. Something's changed. It's not Cloud with Sephiroth. Tifa pleads for Sephiroth to stop, but the illusion continues to play. Now the city is again on fire. It is not Cloud that leaves the Shinra mansion, but the black-haired man. Now Tifa is begging Cloud not to watch. He isn't scared of some illusion. Cloud remembers being in Niflheim, so this ploy to confuse him is not working. Sephiroth again calls him a puppet, and doesn't believe Cloud even has the heart to feel such pain. This is the memory. Cloud's recollection is the illusion. It's becoming clear that Sephiroth is telling the truth. He calls Cloud a failed experiment. 5 years ago, Cloud was constructed by Hojo right after Nibelheim burnt to the ground, and fused with the power of Genova cells and Mako energy. What really stings is he calls Cloud an incomplete Sephiroth clone that wasn't even given a number. We could say for certain that we understand the origins of the men in black cloaks with tattoos now. Tifa tells Cloud that it's impossible, as they have shared memories of their childhoods together. Tifa told Cloud long time no see when they first met. He's sure that he is the Cloud of Nibelheim. Sephiroth tells Cloud that Genova gives one the ability to change their looks and voice, and clearly merged with Tifa's memories to create Cloud. Surely a boy named Cloud lived in her village. He tells Cloud that he is not that child. Cloud isn't the only one reeling right now. Tifa is having her own difficulties dealing with the situation. Remember the man who took the picture right before the gang headed to the top of Mount Nibel? Sephiroth grabs the photo from his corpse on the ground. Tifa asks Cloud not to look. The black-haired man has replaced Cloud in the photo. Another illusion, surely. Cloud recounts the events. As he starts to remember, his memories get fuzzy. When did he enter Soldier? How did he join? His mind is breaking. Scarlet, Hojo, and Rufus admire their finds at the heart of the crater. It's rich with materia. They believe this is indeed the promised land of legend, even if Hojo dismisses the notion. While they admire their prize, the ground begins to tremble, and something moves behind the ice wall. Hojo calls this thing Weapon, a monster of legend created by the planet. Professor Gast had left him a report stating that Weapon appears to destroy everything when the planet is in danger. Nanaki waits for the gang to return anxiously when he's suddenly swept up in a powerful storm around the crater. He is deceived by Sephiroth disguised as Tifa and runs in headlong after Cloud. Cloud appears in front of the Shinra and warns them that things are about to get rough. They bicker about whose battle this is to fight here, and Nanaki arrives to save Cloud. He has to have the black materia. Cloud has proven Sephiroth's words true and acted as his puppet. Sephiroth is once again in possession of the black materia, at the very place he can utilize its power. Cloud apologizes to everyone, including Tifa. He's sorry he couldn't live up to being Cloud. Hojo could not be more satisfied with how things turned out. His experiment was a success. His Genova soldier has proven worthy. He asks for Cloud's number, and he's forced to admit that as a failure, he didn't receive one. Cloud is shattered. He's begging for a number now. Something to seize as an identity. Hojo denies the satisfaction. Cloud takes flight, much like Sephiroth. Hojo explains to Rufus that Cloud is a Sephiroth clone made after Sephiroth's death 5 years ago. He now explains the Genova reunion. Even being dissected into pieces, Genova has the power to reconstitute itself. So by bringing the clones together with the original lab specimens, it can become whole again. Sephiroth himself was originally one of the bioengineered Genova specimens. This meeting is the reunion. Sephiroth has the power to manipulate all of the other clones, and he has led them here to gather the power that he needs to take his new form. Cloud cannot believe what he felt was his free will was actually Sephiroth using his hatred as a guide. Sephiroth is revealed, the true Sephiroth. Hojo is way too excited about this situation. There's way too much going on for Rufus, so he convinces everyone to evacuate. Cloud cannot stop himself. He gives the black materia to Sephiroth. This triggers an intense sequence of events. Weapon is freed from the glacier. The party escapes on an airship. Cloud is not killed by this massive event. He is deep in his own mind. We now get to see Cloud and Tifa's reunion before this game started, which entails Tifa finding a Cloud that is out of sorts at the train station. Cloud seems to recognize Tifa, and she takes a moment but recognizes him as Cloud. Yeah, Cloud. That's me, alright. He tells her that they haven't seen each other in 5 years, and she doesn't argue the point, but does seem to have a differing opinion. Internally, she recalled it had been 7 years. She knows there's something wrong with Cloud because he doesn't know things that he should, and he does know things he shouldn't. She wants to keep an eye on him. She told him about Avalanche in an attempt to keep him close. We now reveal that it was in fact Tifa's dreams we've been inhabiting. Both of them are concerned for Cloud's safety, and they're both speaking about him in vague terms. They don't know if he's alive or dead. Since the incident, Sephiroth has created a barrier around the crater that he sleeps in. He's slowly gathering energy, and no one has been able to stop him. Also, now that Weapon has escaped, it's wreaking havoc on the countryside. Barrett shines a little light on the biggest issue of the moment. The meteor has been summoned, and it's looming ominously in the sky. Rufus enters the room. Now with the meteor summoned and Cloud incapable of coming to save the day, he has one final plan for the group that started as Avalanche. He has a public execution planned. He needs someone to blame to calm the people. Our team is the scapegoat. Scarlet is on site to televise this public execution. The Shinra want to use their deaths to cool the public. Somehow I don't think that would calm me from the sight of a giant looming meteor. Scarlet escorts Tifa to her own private execution chamber. Just as Tifa's execution begins, a siren sounds off as Weapon is on the attack. Everyone flees from the execution room except Scarlet, Barrett, and a trench coat wearing reporter. He approaches Scarlet and hits her with sleeping gas. Oh my, it was Kate Sith the whole time. Who would have thunk? He may be a part of Shinra, but he tells Barrett that he hates that broad. They struggle to try and free Tifa from her room. Back in the boardroom, the Shinra team readies for the attack. I didn't reestablish before that we've been in Junon Harbor, and I could fix that now, but I won't because I'm bad and you have to deal with it. So we're back in Junon Harbor, and they have to ready their defenses. To this day, I find it clever how these shield doors pop up to protect the buildings that Cloud entered on the day of the parade. It impresses me how well thought out this was as far as the art design is concerned, but like it would be from a city planning perspective too. The city turns into a fort in no time. Rufus readies his cannon to take aim directly at Weapon and fires. It'll take more than that to take out this enormous beast. These little faceless Shinra bros have no chance. Meanwhile, Tifa is still locked in her cell, and the gas has started to permeate the room. Barrett and Kate Sith try to find another way to save her. Yuffie is disguised as a reporter and meets up with Barrett just as Weapon reaches the harbor. She has a plan to escape on an airship. Back in the chamber, Tifa sees a key on the ground and wiggles enough to loosen her foot restraints. She's able to free herself eventually from the restraints and stop the gas, but she can't escape the room. Just then, Weapon unleashes a ferocious attack on the city. He then face tanks a direct shot from the cannon and sinks in the water. The blast was just enough to make an escape possible for Tifa. She climbs down and runs down to the edge of the cannon. Scarlet confronts her before she can escape. What happens next? Well, that's a thing of beauty. The women literally get in a slap fight on the tip of Sister Ray, the cannon. Tifa wins, but she still has to make a daring escape as Barrett pulls up in the stolen Shinra airship. It's yours now. The skies are free for the taking. The entire party is here. They're not ready to give in to Sephiroth and his meteor yet. Before anything else, Tifa wants to try and find Cloud. You now have access to travel most of the places in the world on the airship, so you can do the side content if you choose, but Cloud can be found in the island of Midgar. The people in town are just living their final days out casually. Tifa stumbles across some people who found a confused young man on the beach. Tifa runs inside to find Cloud in a bad way. He's essentially catatonic. The doctor explains that he's been exposed to high levels of Mako energy and it's poisoned him. Most men would have not survived something like this. Tifa asks to be left alone with Cloud and begs him to respond. As the party speaks to the doctor out front, Tifa returns to tell them all that she's made up her mind to stay with Cloud. He needs her now, and she wants to be by his side. That's all well and good, but there's still a meteor to stop, and the party heads back out to the High Wind, the name of the airship, to game plan. Cait Sith has a direct access to the boardroom at Shinra HQ, and he spies on a conversation. A reminder that the man in black with the blue suit is technically the man controlling Cait Sith. Shinra has two obstacles. One, they need to destroy the meteor, and two, they need to destroy the barrier protecting Sephiroth. Also, as a side note, I'm pretty sure I've referred to Reeve as Reeves several times at this point. His name is Reeve, and I'm gonna ask forgiveness here because this script has been a tough one to record for me. Shinra has two obstacles. One, they need to destroy the meteor. And two, they need to destroy the barrier protecting Sephiroth. Their plan is the same plan they've been working off of, harvesting huge materia from old Mako reactors and making super weapons out of them. They have two more locations they've yet to farm for huge materia: Coral and Fort Condor. The task for the party is now simple: beat them to the punch and gather the materia for themselves. When you arrive at the Coral reactor, Shinra has already loaded the materia on a train and they're moving it. The only option is to grab another and chase after it. Luckily, our group has the best pilot in the world who has just upgraded to the best train conductor in the world. This is another time sequence where you are allotted a more than generous amount of time. Sid boosts his train up and you jump on the train with the materia and hijack it. Now Sid's task is to slow his caboose down. He stops it just before a collision with the town of North Coral. The town is now grateful for their safety. For once, Barrett isn't being berated here. As a reward, they hand you a large materia called Ultima that's one of the most powerful spells in the game. On to Fort Condor. Shinra are now getting even more reckless. They're planning on destroying the Fort Condor reactor, which could compromise both the materia and the egg that's being guarded on top of it. This time, I didn't even play the Tower of Defense minigame. I just fought the boss once he arrived at the top of the mountain. He falls. Victory for Fort Condor! And then something happens. The egg is finally hatching. The condor falls from its peak. If you investigate at the top, the materia is actually a phoenix materia. That condor will be reborn. Don't you worry about it. That is 2 huge materia obtained. Let's check in on Cloud's status. Thankfully, he's made a miraculous recovery. I'm lying. He's doing horribly. Tifa's at a loss. What should she do? Will he ever recover? Suddenly the ground starts trembling and Cloud starts murmuring. They're coming. The lifestream is beginning to rush from below the surface. The party stays to stand and fight as the weapon has begun to circle the town. Tifa has returned to Cloud's side. They win the battle with weapon, but it's only enough to drive it away. Now the more pressing concern is the lifestream gushing from below them. Cloud and Tifa will have to take care of themselves as the rest of the group have to get to the ship to save themselves. Tifa grabs Cloud's wheelchair to move him someplace safer. Tifa is not fast enough, and they fall to the lifestream. Tifa is shrouded in darkness, and she stands confused, but she starts responding to a voice that you can't hear. Their consciousnesses seem to merge in the darkness of the lifestream. She awakens in Cloud's fractured subconscious. He's searching for the answers from his past. He tries to remember the night at the well. He ponders secret thoughts that he's never revealed to anyone. Nibelheim. What actually happened there? Tifa decides this is the best place to start. Tifa is amazed at the Nibelheim of his memory, as it is the one that she shared with a younger Cloud in years past. Sephiroth walks up and Tifa tells of a foreboding air about him that she felt that day. Cloud recalls him walking in behind Sephiroth, and Tifa quickly dashes this memory. She didn't want to hurt Cloud by telling him the truth, but it was as Sephiroth said. Cloud was not the soldier who came with Sephiroth. She had hoped Cloud would come, but he never showed. It was as Sephiroth had said. the man with black hair. Cloud struggles through his memories. Next, she goes back to the night at the well with Cloud. Tifa continues to prod Cloud for search his memories. Cloud's memories of the night were the reason that Tifa believes that he is indeed her Cloud from Nibelheim. Not some clone created 5 years ago. He remembered those stars. It was not some apparition caused by Genova genetics. Back in Cloud's mind palace, she asks him to recall something deep from inside of him. Something that could not be faked. It has to be a story involving her that she's never told him about. She asks him why he wanted to suddenly join Soldier in the first place. This stirs something in Cloud. He wanted to be noticed by her. Tifa is surprised by this answer. She didn't seem to remember how bad Cloud had it as a young child. He takes her to a tender memory he never wanted to show. Suddenly, the pair are in Tifa's room. We see a young Tifa surrounded by other boys from the village as Cloud nears from the outside. She remembers that in spite of them living near one another, they were not close then. Cloud recalls that Tifa had her own group and he thought everyone was stupid, always laughing and being silly. Tifa reminds Cloud that they were children, that's what they do. Cloud knew this even then, but he just wanted to be a part of the group, and he was always an outsider. Perhaps if he became the strong and mature one, he would be seen for his worth. Maybe then he could be invited in. This memory is when he intended to ask Tifa to come and meet him at the well. He didn't even believe she would show. He thought he was hated. Tifa admits that after the night at the well, she thought of him a lot. She read newspapers and tried to find if Cloud was successful in his endeavor to become a member of Soldier. Snapping out of it, Tifa realizes what that day was. Cloud finishes her thought. It was the day her mother died. Her and her friends went to the mountain pass on Mount Nibble. Her friends warn Tifa that many die on this road. She wonders if her mother came this way and continues. Cloud pursued from behind. At some point, she missed her step and Cloud tried to come to her aid. They both fell off of the cliff. Cloud got a few scrapes, but was fine. Tifa was in far worse shape. Cloud was blamed for this trespass. Tifa was in a coma for 7 days. This changed his personality even more, and he became prone to fighting. He learned about Sephiroth on this day and decided he needed to become stronger. Maybe then, even Tifa would notice him. Tifa apologizes for not knowing how bad things were on a young Cloud. This is him, though. He is certainly the Cloud of Nibelheim, as one made 5 years ago could not possibly have had those kinds of recollections. They now return to the memories of Nibelheim. It's time to piece his story back together. They head first to the reactor. Tifa again is slashed by Sephiroth, and it is not Cloud, but the black-haired soldier who comes. He does not go to Tifa, but runs to fight Sephiroth. Zack is promptly dispatched, but someone else is indeed there to grab Zack's sword and head to Sephiroth. You see this man stab Sephiroth. Mom, Tifa, my town, give it back. It was indeed Cloud, but not dressed as a soldier. Cloud was indeed there, and that is why his memories were so close to the reality of the story. Cloud never made it as a member of Soldier. Arriving in town, he didn't want to reveal his failure to his childhood crush. After dispatching Sephiroth, he did keep his promise to come to Tifa when she needed him. Sephiroth stumbles out wounded with Genova sample in tow. Zack pleads to Cloud to kill Sephiroth. Cloud was promptly impaled. He is more than meets the eye, though, and throws him into the pit, Emperor Palpatine style. With his past now certain, Cloud's fractured consciousness can now heal itself. The two are still caught in the lifestream, however. Cloud can hear their voices. Tifa awakens on the beach of Midgar. The party is already assembled around them. She explains to Barrett that Cloud found himself, and Barrett has no doubts, as no one stands a chance against a tough lady like her. She promptly passes out again. We now cut to Cloud addressing the whole party and apologizing for his actions. There's no need. They've all been through too much to let anything get between them at this point. He now explains the truth that Tifa now knows. The combination of Genova cells, Sephiroth's much stronger will, and his own emotional baggage led him down this road. I want to briefly touch on Zack. You might recall a family in Gongaga asking about their son Zack, who joined Soldier. He hasn't written them in 5 years because poor Zack didn't make it. Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core on the PSP focuses entirely on his story. I've not played that game as of yet, but I recently purchased it, and I might make a video if there's any interest. He simultaneously looms large in the story while also being barely mentioned. In the remake, he has several cameos that can be very confusing for those who have not played this original title. If the remake ever comes to PC, then I'll likely record it and make a video on my thoughts on that. Yeah, it just came to PC. I've already got the Platinum Trophy on PS4, but it's far more inconvenient for me to record footage on that old machine, and my console already is trying to commit seppuku just loading up that game. Moving on with the story, Cait Sith advises the crew that Junon has an underwater reactor that's the likely location of the last huge materia. Making your way down into the other underwater reactor at the base of Junon, your party arrives just in time to see the materia being extracted from the reactor. It's loaded onto a submarine with Reno providing supervision. Reno doesn't have time for a fight, so he summons the dumbest looking robot he can find for a boss fight. This bought them enough time to escape in the sub. Now, would it surprise you if I told you this led to another minigame? Yeah, so it's time for the sub minigame. In spite of how bad I was at this, I believe this is one of the better ones. You hijack the other sub on the premises and give chase. The graphics for this are crazy primitive, especially when you consider later PS1 games, but it actually controls fairly well and is another enjoyable distraction. Once you down the other sub, you have to track it down underwater and extract the huge materia. There are several things you can find at the bottom of the ocean now that you have the sub, but much of that leads to side content that I may or may not discuss later. I won't really discuss it later. If you return to Rocket Town, there's a bunch of Shinra people messing with Cid's rocket. That shit just won't stand. Rude tries to stop our party at the top, which is cute. Inside the cabin, Cid's crew is readying the rocket. Cid cannot believe the betrayal. Shinra wants to load up the rocket with a materia bomb and destroy the meteor. The problem is that they had planned to run the rocket on autopilot, but the mechanism is broken. They've assigned Shara the task of fixing it, to which Cid finds to be rich. Cid tells the men to take their leave. He'll be piloting the rocket. Cloud has concerns for the safety of Cid and the huge materia that has been stored inside. After all this time, Cid is going to do what he's always wanted to do. He's going to space. He's betting on science. Suddenly, in the middle of a rant to Cloud, the rocket begins to rumble. Shara decided to be fast today and the autopilot's fixed. Palmer has set the rocket to launch. The old rocket may look broken down, but it reveals it still has some gusto left. Cid's done it. He's succeeded in his dream of making it to space. The rest of the party begs him to snap out of it. Palmer has rigged the autopilot to send them straight at the meteor. Cid is still upbeat. He's got an escape pod on this ship. They can evac before the big boom. The next task is securing the huge materia that the rocket is holding. The materia is locked and Cloud has to enter a passcode at random to unlock it. It gives you a 3-minute timer, which again is generous. It's time to escape. Down in the hold, Shara is still on board. One of the oxygen tanks explodes and Cid realizes the truth. Shara was right that day to work on the oxygen tanks. She saved his life by stopping that original launch. Now he is covered in debris and is despairing, but she reveals herself to yet again be invaluable. She would never leave his side and will help everyone get off of here. Cid berates her for putting herself in danger before finally apologizing. As they enter the pod, Cid asks Shara if the pod is even safe. She confirms that she's checked it. He responds that he's relieved. He's always respected her, but he's finally showing it. Once they depart safely in the pod, Cid can finally appreciate the accomplishment of making it to space. With no materia on board, the rocket collides with the meteor. It still makes an enormous explosion, but the meteor withstands the collision. It was damaged, but much like the Earth, it seems to be healing itself. The people of the planet look on in disappointment. The group regather on the high wind, and Sid reveals that he's a bit deeper than one might assume. They now have all the huge materia in their possession. Returning to Cosmo Canyon, the Super Friends unite around Bugenhagen for his sage wisdom. He reminds everyone that Eris said that she's the only one who could stop the meteor. They ponder why Eris was not running from Sephiroth's pursuit. Bugenhagen wants to see the City of the Ancients, but first, he helps you stow the huge materia. With all the materia stowed next to each other, you are bestowed the Bahamut Zero Summon materia. This is the second strongest summon in the game. With all that done, you're free to take Bugen to the City of the Ancients. The first time you came here, there was nothing to interact with in this particular area. On return visit, Bugenhagen can use this stone to see knowledge of the Ancients. It tells him to search for Holy. It's the ultimate white magic, and it could stand against the power of the meteor. He says if a soul-seeking Holy reaches the planet, it will appear. It will destroy the meteor, the weapon, everything that plagues the planet, up to and including humans living on it. Bugenhagen explains that it's up to the planet to decide on that future. This leaves Cloud disheartened, as it's clear humans haven't been the most positive force for the planet as of recent. Bugen explains that the white materia will appear for those who speak to the planet to make a bond. If a bond is made, the material will glow a pale green. Cloud now realizes that Eris already had the holy materia. It was her mother's materia that fell upon her death. This must be the end. With no access to holy, they stand no chance against Sephiroth and the meteor. Bugenhagen explains the writing on the altar. Cloud is amazed he can read it. It's all Greek to me. Bugen has a bit of a silly side. He can, however, decipher writings from a prior scientist that were left on the altar referencing a key in a music box. The key can be found with the submarine while exploring, and I had already done so. When inserted, the key activates the stone in the middle of the room. The ancients have left their message. Eris was killed as she was making her prayer for the holy magic. Eris knew the risk, but she did what was necessary for the sake of the planet to leave it with some hope. The materia is activated, but its magic has not begun to take its course. Its power is being blocked. Sephiroth is the only one with this measure of power, and he has to be stopped. As the gang begins to leave the city, our Shinra insider has more news for us. The giant cannon from Junon, the Sister Ray, has been moved. Rufus plans to use it to destroy the force field protecting Sephiroth. In his mind, Sephiroth is merely an obstacle between him and the world's largest supply of Mako energy and huge materia. So where has it been moved to? The Shinra executives squabble over the plan. Scarlet believes the shells from the cannon will penetrate the barrier at the northern crater. As the party begins to board their airship, the Highwind, the ground shakes. A new weapon has emerged, and it's on its way to Midgar. Barrett is immediately concerned about Marlene, and Kate Sith tells him that Marlene and Eris's mom are both in a safe place. With Marlene safe, Barrett is no longer concerned with the potential harm or danger. Kate Sith snaps. How many people were killed by Barrett's explosion at the first reactor? Barrett thinks of this as breaking a few eggs to make an omelet. Kate Sith is a realist. Those were real human lives lost, and that was everything to them and their families. Kate Sith is a Shinra suit in disguise, but he's done what he has done to minimize human casualties. Barrett seems to dismiss anything that doesn't affect him directly. Barrett refuses to take any lip from a Shinra stooge. The rest of the crew steps in to intervene. Reeve is a Shinra employee, but he clearly can't relinquish his post as he's safeguarding the lives of those in Midgar to the best of his ability. Enough of this arguing. It's time for action. The party decides to meet the new weapon head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Sorry. I'm on page 26 of this script at this point. I might be losing it. The battle with the weapon is the most difficult yet. The weapon is not defeated. He is only slowed and starts to make a turn. It senses another danger to the planet. The Sister Ray is now ready to fire. As the shot is fired, Diamond Weapon, the name of the enemy, takes fire at Midgar. The party has a perfect view to see the weapon skewered by the shot from the cannon. It continues all the way to the barrier protecting the crater and does its job of cracking it. Rufus is proud of his work until he gets noticed that the weapon unleashed shots at Midgar. I wonder who's next in line to be president of the Shinra Corporation. Reeve is concerned as someone who's turned on the reactor and the cannon is building up energy. It's not poised to be fired again yet. There is a rogue agent somewhere inside of Shinra. Would it surprise you to hear that it's Hojo who's sabotaging the whole of Midgar? He is mumbling about Sephiroth. Homie's crazy, alright. Prototypical mad scientist. Surprising no one. The gang have to return to Midgar to stop him. Meanwhile, the remaining executives have different ideas about what Shinra should do next. Reeve is taken into custody. It's a miracle this company turned into a superpower with this personnel. The party airdrop into Midgar stealth style. Shinra are on high alert. Access to Shinra will be easier from underground. This is a fairly long combat gauntlet with a lot of exploration if you're going around trying to find everything. These pre-rendered backgrounds are amazing. The Remako mod has AI upscaled them to bring them back to glory. I love the look of this game. I've mostly stuck to the plot without major detours about anything non-essential, but I really need to emphasize how much these backgrounds really brought this game a specific atmosphere that was very successful back in 1997. In these tunnels, you will encounter the Turks for one final time. If you completed the Wutai side quest with Yuffie, then you can persuade them to let you by without a fight. A choice which I declined. Sit down, know your place. I used the most powerful summon in the game on them just to make a point. It was completely unnecessary. They ran away with their tail between their legs. You emerge from below the city and Shinra has a new automated defense robot waiting for you. Heidegger and Scarlet seem quite proud, but you are the group that just fought with Diamond Weapon. That is no real task for our group. At the mainframe, Hojo awaits doing madman shit. Hojo's plan is to use the energy from Midgar to assist Sephiroth. He refers to Sephiroth as his son. Hojo offered the woman with his child to Professor Gast. While Sephiroth was still in utero, he was implanted with Genova's cells. Hojo does not truly see Sephiroth as his son, though. He sees him as his science project that he needs to complete. He isn't done, though. He's injected himself with Genova cells so that he too might become stronger. He mutates before our very eyes. Now he's the same kind of disgusting mutant as the other Genova specimens. His defeat leads to the gang defusing the situation with the energy buildup. 7 more days until the collision with Meteor. Cloud wants the gang to take this time to visit their loved ones. Everyone should remember what they're fighting for. Sure, they need to save the planet, but everyone needs to find their real reason for fighting. Barrett has a real moment of introspection where he realizes that he might have possibly lost sight of why he was doing the things he was doing. For once, he has a moment of culpability for the losses of the reactor explosion. He needs to visit Marlene. This is no longer a fight of vengeance. Sid is unsure if anyone will return. Perhaps this fight's futile. Cloud will be here. It's up to the rest of them to find their reason to fight. Cloud asks Tifa where she plans on going. She has no one left to visit. She's all alone. The two are the same. With only each other to count on, they're unsure if the others will return, but Tifa is secure in knowing she has Cloud. She reminds Cloud of their moment caught in the lifestream. She heard him calling for her. He heard her calling for him as well. Now, with their moment alone, Cloud has the time to tell Tifa all the things he's meant to tell her, but he can't come up with anything to say. Tifa gives him a hint that he can tell her with more than words. We cut to them awakening at dawn next to one another. Tifa is relishing this moment. This could be their last time together. They take a moment to ready themselves. No one has returned yet. Tifa said it herself. All they need is each other. They steel their nerves and return to the High Wind to begin their final journey to battle Sephiroth. The ship is large and it's lonely without the rest of the crew. In the cockpit, the rest of the crew awaits them. They all decided not to interrupt upon their return. Tifa has a moment of embarrassment. I'm pretty sure Squaresoft had to steady their hand as they readied a high-five animation for Cloud. Even the elusive Vincent has returned to the fight. This surprises Cloud, as Vincent has always appeared to be too cool to really care about any of this. They thank Eris for her sacrifice and the window of opportunity that she's granted everyone before proceeding into the crater. Once you descend into the crater, it's an arduous journey down to the bottom. It's filled with the game's most dangerous creatures. If you encounter a Toneberry, it might be best just to make a quick escape. These guys carry a grudge, and that grudge equals a one-hit kill. My characters were about level 65 on this run at this point. Certainly strong enough to make it to the end, but far from being overpowered killing machines. After persevering, your party can reach the bottom and begin the final battle. The first phase of the fight is against a reunited Jenova. It looks, well, like a weird alien specimen. This fight brings you down to Sephiroth, who has been waiting. Holy is down here as well, surrounded by a malignant tumor of evil. As the player, you are forced to set up two parties for this fight. If you are completely unprepared as I was, then you will have one set that is built to the nines with the best materia and the best armaments, and a second party consisting of the dregs of your remaining materials. I completely forgot the mechanics of this upcoming fight, and I made this far harder on myself than necessary. Bizarro Sephiroth has 5 components. Depending on how many parties you set up, this fight can go 2 different ways. I won't explain this in depth, but I did this the hard way. The Cliff's Notes version is that you should not check up on your second party when prompted. This fight is far more simple if you ignore the second party and focus attacks with your primary kitted out group. Eventually though, his core was destroyed. This is not the end of Sephiroth. He now returns in his final form, the one-winged angel. He immediately protects himself with magical barriers and can do attacks that can one-hit kill your party members. It is a suitable final boss with an accompanying soundtrack that suits this fight perfectly. As the choir picks up singing behind you, the stakes are raised. Sephiroth uses his most powerful attack. He creates a supernova that threatens the solar system. After this attack, I was left with one surviving character that was also turned into a toad. Perhaps I could have done this better, but the party did inevitably pull through and defeat the alleged god. Everyone is celebrating. They've done what they can do. Cloud senses it though. Sephiroth is not done, and that means Cloud isn't either. It's not totally clear, but my interpretation is Cloud is still haunted in his mind by Sephiroth, and he has to face off with his nemesis to destroy his inner demons. Cloud and Sephiroth stand and face each other one-on-one. Cloud's limit break gauge is readied for his most powerful attack. Sephiroth attacks first, and Cloud counterattacks, finishing him off. Wait, that's wrong. Goddamn counterattack Materia. I hope you appreciate that I had to go back and play all of this last segment again to capture this footage so you could see this moment in its full glory. The proper ending involves Cloud hitting Sephiroth with his most powerful move, the Omni Slash. This finishes him off proper. Tifa has once again stayed behind, just as she did in Midgar. She is here to reach for him as the crater begins to collapse. The rocks collapse around Tifa and Cloud grabs her. Everyone is safe, and they've done what they can do. Now they can only hope that Holy works its magic and that it protects them. The high wind falls from the ridge down into the crater, giving them an escape vehicle. It's a narrow escape. Marlene senses the flower girl and peeks out her window to see the looming meteor directly over Midgar. The city is being ripped apart. Suddenly, the planet springs into action to defend itself. The holy magic has begun to do its work. Is it enough to stop the meteor? The party fears that Midgar is only the start. The planet itself might be finished. Suddenly, the lifestream bursts from the planet. There's hope yet. We were told the planet will protect itself, and the more grievous the injury to the planet, the stronger it will protect itself. The closing shot before credits is a close-up of Eris's face. Seemingly, there is a guardian. The credits start from here. The game was the first I can remember ever playing with a post-credit sequence. 500 years later, Nanaki runs alongside his children in a canyon. He must not have been the last of his kind after all. He reaches the top and looks down at the ruins of Midgar. The cutscene ends with the sound of children playing. And this concludes the main story of Final Fantasy VII. We're left with questions. The planet was clearly saved by the lifestream, but did our party and their fellow humans make it? You're only left to speculate. Years later, there was a movie called Advent Children that seems to verify that they did make it, but at the time of its release, you didn't have that edification, and one could certainly decide that it doesn't fit their canon. The cutscene ends with the sounds of children playing, which always led me to believe that the planet spared the people of the planet, but in 1997, no one could say for sure. This led some to be completely upset with the ending. They get no gratification of a happily ever after ending. What would become of our friends from this long journey? No one could say for sure. What I could say for me is that I enjoyed the ending for that very reason. It had a complexity that many stories of its era lacked, not just the journey, but the destination. This is another example of an open-ended story that I enjoyed that many others didn't. Some people want clear-cut answers, and many forget that at the time, there were many who were deeply bothered by this ending. Today, this game is remembered as a classic, one of the most influential games of all time. Most people who have never even played the game are still aware of the names of Cloud and Sephiroth, or have likely heard about Eris's untimely demise. This game was important because it showed the gaming industry stories like these could be told. It showed players like me that stories like these could be told. And it was done so insanely stylishly with the technology of the time. I love the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy III was my favorite game ever, but the technology limited the empathy that you could feel for the pixel art characters. Old Toaster Hands Cloud had cutscenes to render human-looking forms that should not be understated. So what do I think today? As a story, judging by just the events of the game, I could still really appreciate it. I'm a terrible judge because I'm unable to remove the strong prescription from my nostalgia goggles. As far as the world events are concerned, the story of Mako energy, which evolves into the life stream, the literal spirits of all life who have ever existed on the planet, Jenova, the alien being who is found in the Earth. Later you find that Jenova is the genesis of many of the problems in this universe. It corrupted Sephiroth and all of his followers. Cloud was tainted by his Jenova genetics. The Shinra Corporation was an interesting and ever-present heel. The events of the story interest me to this day, and I think it's fair to say that even while admitting my attachment to it. The characters were all given a lot of development. You had plenty of time to grow attached to your party. It's not hard to sympathize with Cloud's struggle. Obviously, he's given the most time to shine. The love triangle between Tifa, Eris, and him is endearing. Your choices in game are allowed to dictate how it plays out. Even knowing about Eris's tragic ending, I've made a point to state that Cloud and Eris are meant to be romantically entangled and then tragically separated, all while Tifa fawns over Cloud from the bench. They later reconnect, and she helps him rebuild his own identity. This further blossoms over their final struggle to save the world. Both of them are left with only each other. Eris has to make the ultimate sacrifice and is the only one capable of seeing the truth. She fulfills her destiny, and as a character, she has very few flaws. She forgives easily, She showed Cloud this as she understood his inner turmoil and all of his poor decision making. In spite of her dodging the Turks for all of her time in Midgar, she still had pity on Sung as he lay wounded in the Temple of the Ancients. Red 13, or Nanaki, his given name, was allegedly the last of his kind. He was subjected to experimentation, but held no ill will towards the humans. His upbringing in Cosmo Canyon made him worldly, even though he may be youthful for one of his species. His father's story hits. Barrett is Mr. T from Jump Street, brash and bossy. As the game progresses, his motivations are clear. He wants to save the planet, but he wants revenge on Shinra, who murdered his wife and his friends and family. He took his friend's daughter as a caretaker and loves her as a true father would. His conflict with Dine is well written and interesting. Kate Sith. The premise of a Shinra insider working with the team as a spy from both sides is truly interesting. I can't remember all the bad things I said about him, but he was very important for the story. My main problem is that Reeve controls the guy, and then as soon as Kate Sith starts talking, he becomes the lovable dummy. I wish he always kept the same energy he had at the end of the game, where he acts like a responsible adult. There are plenty of purposefully goofy and funny moments in the story. Kate Sith didn't need to be a part of that for me. Plus, a big stuffed Moogle being ridden by a cat with Reeve's persona might make an interesting contrast. Yuffie is a fun character to have around. She's young and she has her own chaotic motives. She's hoarding materia for an eventuality where the forces of Wutai have the powers to again fight against Shinra. She's truly unpredictable. For the first time, I had her in my endgame party, and she is a great fighter to have around as well. Sid Highwind. As his story starts, it's all about his desire to see space. He has failures and successes. I think I might be more attached to him as a character because I had a dad who was a baseball coach that was also a former Vietnam vet. He was rough, and he was gruff, and he was also entirely misunderstood by some. This is his story arc. He's a complete ass to Shara in the beginning. He always hints at a love and respect for her, but it's very heavily masked behind crude language and behavior. He never sugarcoats things, but he also has a very specific brand of wisdom that he imparts on our crew. He's a colorful character, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to grow attached to him. Vincent Valentine. I didn't mention him much. His character design is great. He's edgy as all hell. Yuffie and Vincent are both optional recruitable characters, so the story has to be designed around them. Yuffie has a long side quest that I briefly went over in my summary. I did not do so for Vincent. The first reason is that I forgot to go to Lucretia's cave. I already had to recomplete the last hour or so of gameplay to capture Cloud omni-slashing Sephiroth, so I really didn't want to do this. Also, the entirety of the cave lasts about 5 minutes. If you go to a cave, you can find his beloved Lucretia that he mentioned in his first meeting with you. This causes him to have a flashback. He was in love with Lucretia, but she was involved with another. The other man was Hojo, and you know now that he gave Lucretia to Professor Gas to perform experiments on. Eventually, her child was born, Sephiroth. This cutscene then shows Lucretia falling to the floor and Vincent approaching Hojo. Vincent is then shot. His body is then experimented on. He returns, but he's not the same. He's a monster now. He's forced to live on knowing he could not stop Lucretia's torment. He then stands at the cave and asks her how she could still be alive. The Genova cells inside her would not let her die. She asks only what has become of her son. Vincent tells her that her son is dead. Technically, at this point of the game, Sephiroth is encased in the northern crater, so whether he's lying to her or not is left up to the player. Perhaps this is a Lord Vader situation? The son that you bore is gone. The son that you bore is gone. Perhaps once the Genova took hold, he ceased to be Sephiroth and became the one-winged angel. This scene ends promptly as you simply depart the cave. I'm sorry for not having that cutscene, but I don't like to use footage from other creators in my videos if it's something I could or should be capturing myself. Vincent is a character that I love the design for. He just isn't given enough meat on the bone in this game. In gameplay, he's a fantastic magic user, but his limit breaks are terrible. I know you probably want me to show you, and that's a valid expectation considering the length this video will likely be, but I won't because that would mean using him in battle. Suck it. Much like Cait Sith, I like him in concept more than execution. Overall, the cast wins my heart over. They're memorable and they're mostly given their time to shine. My remarks on Vincent notwithstanding. There's a special alchemy that happens when you play JRPGs that I'm certain I've remarked on before. I call it Stockholm Syndrome. These games are typically long, and the longer you spend with a crew of misfits, you begin to take ownership in their successes and failures. This game was a formative experience for so many, so the Stockholm Syndrome took hold on many of us harder than it would in later years. If someone played this game for the first time today with no background knowledge, do I believe that would still be true? Yeah, I think I can honestly say I do. Let's briefly talk about the side content. If you've made it this deep in the game, then you're probably one of the few people who has stayed through some of my other content. I've said in the past, I tend to be a bit of a completionist. I've 100% completed this game twice now. On this run, I decided better of it. Having said that, because I've done everything this game has to offer, I want to briefly discuss some of the things you could do on the side. Firstly, I'm sure I've included footage of my golden chocobo in my story recap. I just discovered you can breed a golden chocobo based off of breeds you can find in the wild. In the past, I did a significant side game where you capture a chocobo, race it at the golden saucer, and then breed it, only to do the same and then again. Breeding chocobos requires the chocobos and then a certain nut to help the breeding process or something. I'm not sure what it's for. This is a fun process when the game was new to me. As someone who has done it twice now, I find it to be exhausting today. There are certain areas where the high wind cannot land. Breeding these chocobos can lead you to an area that are otherwise inaccessible. The best summon spell in the game can be found in one of these caves, only after breeding a golden chocobo. I loved this in my youth and have been exhausted of my enjoyment as an adult. I think most people would find this tedious nowadays if you weren't prepared for it. If you want to skip the process of racing, there are guides online to show you how. If you care to do it, as I once did, then you are certainly welcome. Racing chocobos can be done at the Golden Saucer, and they decide to listen to you based on their intelligence stats. Some chocobos are hard to control if you don't feed them some greens or otherwise build their stats. I didn't do much of this other than for capturing footage of a race or two, so look at a guide if you want to get invested in this activity. Every character has an ultimate weapon and an ultimate limit break that can be achieved through various means. I only got a few of them on this run. Young Shane would be ashamed. As for the optional side bosses, I did not do this, therefore I have no footage again. Cloud's ultimate weapon can be found on Ultima Weapon, who soars in the sky. To initiate this fight, you could fly into it with the high wind. He's probably the easiest of the optional mega bosses. Next, there's Emerald Weapon. He has an ungodly amount of hit points. While you're piloting your sub underwater, you have to be aware of him, because only the strongest magic in the game can defeat him. There's another kink in the chain, as this fight has a timer to it. The creature can be defeated in the allotted time, but the easier way to go about it is to get an underwater materia that removes the timer. The last boss is Ruby Weapon in the desert. He has a move where he can knock party members out of the battle, and he has to be attacked strategically. I've defeated these bosses in the past, but as this video is mainly focusing on story, I decided not to do the grinding I felt would be necessary to go against these obstacles. Sorry to anyone disappointed by this. If this was my first run in the game, I would certainly go through the effort. My first 100% completion run was somewhere around 80 hours. My second run was even less than that, a couple years later. This run this time was probably around 35-40 hours. I only did some of the side content. I also feel that someone could easily consume this game quickly, even with no nostalgia assigned to it. I could easily recommend this game to most, given they have the console port, or maybe are willing to tinker a bit with the PC version. The tinkerers like me might find they can really jazz the thing up. Let's talk about the script. I played with the original translation. I referred to our flower girl as Eris. There are some that are probably clutching their pearls as they know her as Aerith. The darn fool that translated the game messed it up. This is the name of the character I was introduced to almost 25 years ago. This translation is by no means the quote correct translation. I started the game with the translation from Remako mod, and I can immediately tell that the text is more accurate to the original intent of the Japanese text. It carries with it a completely different tone, however. When I think of the initial localization of this game, I imagine a guy with an overflowing ashtray. He's in a tiny room frantically typing away at his keyboard while translating on a tight deadline. Decisions had to be made. Each passing day takes months off his life. Older Final Fantasy games had fantastically silly lines, such as Tella from Final Fantasy II calling Edward a spoony bard. This game is no exception. Some of the choices of verbiage are peculiar. Cloud famously tells the party, "Let's Mosey," on multiple occasions as an example. Also, there were really strange typos and contextual errors in the PlayStation version, such as the famous "this guy are sick" line. Some of the typos were corrected for the PC release, but the original silly script remains. I chose to stick to the script from my childhood. There are numerous other translations that one can choose to play on PC, and I'll leave it to a player's discretion as how they play their games. This text has moments of silliness that comes from a strange tone, but it still conveys the story plenty well enough for me to understand it. When you play a game like this, where the story is told entirely through text boxes, there's a heavy burden on the script to carry weight with no inflection from a voiced character. On top of that, you have minimalist graphics by today's standards to carry emotion. A lot of pressure is put on the reader's mind to follow that script and emote for the characters internally as well. This game has now had a full remake. Well, part 1 of a remake was released. Since I started writing this script, it was finally released on Steam and the Crisis Core remaster was announced. It looks like I've got to get on to playing the PSP version of that. Something like that. Again, if anyone would be interested in me discussing that game, I'd be happy to do it, I think. Whether it's a small review or a recap video like this one, we'll see if I feel like the story is worth discussing. When the remake was announced to be broken up in multiple parts, there were riots in the streets. So many people online were saying things like, "I'll just wait till the full game is covered." I was one of those among you who just wanted a single all-encompassing game. I just wrote a big-ass recap of this game, and let me inform people, this game is dense. It took me 35 hours, but there's zero voice acting. If they had people come in and just directly read these lines with no additional material added, it would be a shit ton of content. It makes total sense to me now. You could read through this content quick. You might have noticed that I had the message speed maxed out, and I was trying to keep the boxes up for longer so they could be read, but you could breeze through them. My first run, I spoke to every one of these side characters. The Midgar area alone is a massive amount of content. Of course, in the remake, they added some elements that is another story for another day. I just want to reassure some who might have put off the new remake, seeing it as simply incomplete. I'm a person who always wanted a version of Final Fantasy VII where Cloud didn't have toasters for hands. Now, with the Remako mod, I got that. The remake is being made, and now I can get another new taste of Final Fantasy VII. It will never take away from the original experience. It will always exist. Nothing the remake does can hurt the legacy of a childhood classic. That is my opinion on having them remake the game anyhow. I will most certainly eventually cover the new versions of the game in depth. My short synopsis of my thoughts on Remake Part 1 is that I enjoyed the hell out of it. I already got the Platinum Trophy on PS4. I bought it again so I could play it on PC at a frame rate that will make it more enjoyable to me. Thank you for releasing it on Steam. That's a pretty decent endorsement, I think. As with Nier, Final Fantasy VII deserves special recognition for its original soundtrack. Nobuo Uematsu essentially created the soundtrack to my childhood, and this music fits this game like a glove. Hearing a song immediately transports me to exact moments in the story. I tried to follow the game's lead. If I play this song, could you place when I was playing it in the video? Often the music kicks in and informs you of future character interactions before they even happen. The music is illustrative. It holds your hand and tells you how to feel. When you consider the setting of Final Fantasy VII and think about the cold steel of Midgar to the Native American vibes of Cosmo Canyon, the music playing in the background paints as much the picture as the pre-rendered backgrounds. The game could not have had the reputation it has without it. I will try my best to showcase it in the background with the accompanying video. The boss battle music isn't going to get a lot of love in this video, as I sped through them to discuss story, but I'm going to drop some Genova bump it stuff in this section just for my own satisfaction. As a game, I think Final Fantasy VII holds up as a fantastic experience. Any fears that my love for this game came solely from nostalgia have washed away. I still love it. I'll likely play it again after Remako mod The Remakening is released in 2040. Was there anyone who actually sat through all that? Did anyone watch it and decide that they'll still play the game anyways? It'd be cool if someone did. Even if you weren't inspired to play a really old game, I hope I've earned some semblance of appreciation for it. Thanks to everyone who came and listened. My friend Archie is never going to play a game as old as Final Fantasy VII, but I might be able to persuade him to play the remake. I'm hoping I can anyways. Thanks to all who came. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Comment and complain about me not having tons of footage. Or maybe you have a heart and you can take pity. Maybe you got something to talk about. A memorable moment. Something of the sort. Please do. I'm a small creator, so I actually see all the comments on my page. Have a nice day.